Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Take as little as 3 minutes to see if you could save on motorcycle insurance with Progressive. Come on, you've spent more time than that debating your accessories.
Could use some new riding gloves. Guess I'll go with black leather again. Just seems so basic. Wait, what if I did white leather? People be like, hey, this guy's different. Or they might be like, hey, this guy looks like a butler. Yeah, okay. Black leather it is.
Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy, Donovan, and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll discuss Fantastica Mania, the All-Star Junior Festival, New Japan Cup, and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com. Frequently updated and with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and share playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, got a lot going on in this world of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, man, you listed a lot of different shows, and I'm like, did we watch all that this week?
Yeah, it was a very busy wrestling weekend. Of course, as everybody knows, the great AEW Revolution pay-per-view happened yesterday. I know there was a Stardom pay-per-view this weekend as well. We got the Ring of Honor TV taping kicked off last week, so I know there's a ton of great wrestling that people are trying to catch up on, stay up on, especially also New Japan Cup starting at the anniversary event today. So much going on to catch up on.
UFC.
That's right, the big John Jones, Cyril Gane fight.
I think it's gone, but yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he is, gone. But yeah, we got a lot to jump into. I say we just no need to banter this week. Let's just try and slay this beast.
Yeah, let's run it. I'll start with the Wrestler of the Month and Match of the Month for February.
I'm like, let's talk about Fantastica Mania. Dun, 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 dun.
Okamura!
So yeah, we got the wrestler of the month and the match of the month. I'll kick us off with the wrestler of the month, and there were a lot of great candidates, deserving individuals that put in some pretty great performances, but I think ultimately we had to go with the current reigning IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada, because not only did he put in two great matches in this company this month, not only did he defend his title successfully, he had one of the match of the year contenders for the year against Shingo Takagi. And then on top of that defense and the defense against Tanahashi in North America, he crossed over into Noah and also beat their reigning world champion in Keito Kiyomiya. And, you know, all the controversies aside, it was a great match and he prevailed, and in kayfabe proved that he's the superior champion. So kind of hard not to go with him for, I believe this is what, the second month in a row?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I'd have to check, but I think he was January's wrestler of the month too. So yeah, Okada really putting in the work this year and making an early case for, you know, wrestler of the year, not just for New Japan, but possibly worldwide.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's been putting out banger after banger. And, you know, usually for like our wrestler of the month award, usually he doesn't really get it because usually he has like one big match where there are other guys who have multiple great matches throughout the month or have done a lot of great stuff throughout the month. But yeah, he's killing it right now. Like you mentioned, those two big great matches. And one of those great matches is our February match of the month. And that would be that IWGP title match against Shingo Takagi from the New Beginning tour. And, you know, right now that is the second highest rated match for New Japan on Cage Match for the year. This match has gotten a ton of great reviews, and it was another classic between Okada and Shingo. Great hard hitting, IWGP main event style matchup there. And so, yeah, that is our February match of the month.
Yeah, so the year has kicked off to a somewhat conventional, but also mixed in with unconventional shows. You know, we're back to the regular, traditional schedule that we're used to, but we're also peppering in a lot of weird things, like the All-Star Junior Festival, Fantastica Mania is at a different time of the year, Battle in the Valley. So it's the same, but different.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about one of the shows that we have to review here. So last week we had the last night of the New Japan Pro Wrestling and CMLL Fantastica Mania 2023 tour. This tour concluded on February 28th in Korakuen Hall. Thought it was a great show to really close off the tour. We had Capitan Suicida and Yuta Nakashima defeating Kosei Vegeta and Mahia Blanca. Tiger Mask defeating El Hijo de Villano 3. The LIJ team of Bushi, Hiromu, Naito, and Teton, they defeated Tanahashi. Rei Kameda, Roy Oiwa, and Satoshi Kojima. Dulce Gardenia defeated Okamura. Soberano Jr. defeated Hechishiro. Then the semi-main event, we had the Incredible Rival six-man tag match as El Desperado, Templario, and Volador Jr. defeated El Barbaro Cavernario, Master Wato, and Ultimo Guerrero. And then the main event, champion versus champion, Mystico defeats Atlantis Jr.
Well, that's true. It is champion versus champion, but there's a lot of champions in CML.
Yeah, there is.
How many champions do you think they have in this company, actually?
Don't they have something like 20 champions? And I'm not even trying to exaggerate. Isn't that that much?
I think it's more than that. I'll tell you right now. So they have currently active 28 different titles. Now, keep in mind, they have the CMLL titles, which are, that's going to include all of their world titles, plus, like trios and tag champions and the women's title. And they all sorts of weird, they have a bunch of weird titles under that umbrella. But then they also house a bunch of Mexican national titles, which are kind of not specific to CMLL, but historically have floated between companies and kind of even predate CMLL. And then they have the NWA World Historic titles, which are additional world titles they have. And then they have the Occidente titles, which are basically like, I think they have they have like another company that they run out of, I think it's Juarez or Jalisco. And it's sort of like NXT basically.
Gotcha. They're kind of like their developmental kind of in a way.
It's like it's more like a regional territory that they run, and they kind of treat it like developmental, but it doesn't get acknowledged very often on television. But they've got like a good 6 or 7 titles coming out of there too. So yeah, they've got 28 different titles.
Wow.
So I say all that to say this, like, yes, this was a big deal, but you know, in that company, the man makes the title, not the other way around, and for real.
Yeah.
But there is no denying that Lannis Jr. and Mystico are two of the biggest single stars that they have. So yeah, this was a big deal. And yeah, overall, I thought this show was very good. Maybe not quite as good as the night prior, which I think was the high point of this year's Fantastica Mania tour. But I thought it was a good companion piece, even if it maybe slightly under-delivered in a few areas that I thought it could have shined more, you know?
Yeah, they did kind of build a lot to the single matches on this show. Tiger Mask, Viano 3, you know, they had some pull-apart brawls on some of the undercards earlier in the tour, so they did build that match up. I thought Tiger Mask looked pretty good in that match, considering that he doesn't do many singles matches nowadays, and yeah, he was able to pull off the win here, the Tiger Suplex on Viano 3.
Yeah, one thing I did notice, for whatever reason, Dave decided to review this show, which was a little surprising, maybe just because it's the last night of Cork and Hall for the tour, but I thought his reviews were a bit harsh, honestly, and then he went 3 3/4 on the main event, which I thought was a little high, so I don't know. And I noticed that some of the cage match ratings, too, sort of were lower than maybe what I was overall. Like for me, I thought the show was really, like, for instance, the Tiger Mask Viano 4 match. I didn't think it blew me away or anything, but I was impressed to a certain degree. I actually have a little bit of a different take than you. I kind of thought Tiger Mask didn't look so great, but I thought Viano 4, for being such a green guy, he did a pretty good job carrying him, in my opinion. I think that most of the match was a heat segment that he kind of had to improvise. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it wasn't anything that like blew me away. And I don't think the match was like next level or anything like that. But for what it needed to be, it could have been a lot worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people seem to be pretty harsh on it when I was looking at like the critics scores and stuff, which I found it pretty enjoyable. They had high flying, there was heat, you know, and you know, ultimately, even though I thought Tiger Mask looked a little aged, he still did the big spots off the turnbuckle and everything like that.
Yeah, the big Tiger Suplex off the top. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. So, I mean, and I think it's a good experience for a young guy like Viano 3 to, I call him Viano 4, Viano 3 to, you know, to get in there with a legend like him. So,
yeah. Then other match, they built the Dulce Gardenia and Okamura match. And I feel like their rivalry kind of goes back to even the last Fantastica Mania tour that happened in 2020. And this was kind of, you know, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of seriousness. You did have Mima Shimoda out there always accompanying Okamura, and she got involved. There was a spot on the outside where, you know, she was holding Dulce Gardenia. And
careful, Jeremy. You don't want to get canceled by association, bro.
Well, yeah. So actually, Okamura's holding Gardenia, and Mima goes to slap Dulce, but Dulce moves. She slaps Okamura. Okamura gets pissed. He slaps Mima, and then she starts crying. The crowd starts booing.
Yeah, and then he apologizes. This is one of those matches where for some people it's going to be very like offensive and, you know, kind of not really in their wheelhouse, you know, because of some of the optics. But at the same time, I don't want to like make excuses for it, but it's part of Mexican wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, it is part of the culture, what they do there. I think some of the Exotico stuff also kind of falls under that sort of complex sort of ideal, like, just because, you know, the Exotico stuff could really be seen as like a characterization of like LGBTQ characters and almost like poking fun at them. And like exploiting it. But at the same time, there's those who kind of look at the Exoticos as being like icons of LGBTQism and sort of playing off the machismo in, Latin culture. So it really can go both ways. It's kind of interesting. But as far as the actual match goes, I thought it was pretty good. It did have a lot of comedy, but for the high flying stuff that they did, I thought it was pretty good. Definitely. I mean, there was some of the domestic violence mixed in there, and I mean, there's definitely some people that are not going to like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's very similar to the whole Will Ospreay, Bea Priestley. Like Mima Shimoda, she's a women's wrestler. She knows how to do the bump, how to protect herself. Obviously, it was a planned spot. It wasn't like he really like hauled back and hit her.
You want to know, though, for me, even though I know Mima Shimoda, like LCO, she's like this legend, for some reason, to me, I see it a little different. And here's why. Bea Priestley shows up in wrestling gear. Mima Shimoda's out there in civilian clothes. She's wearing like not even like I mean, she's definitely like a beautiful woman and she's like there as a valet, but she's not even like dolled up like, like Miss Elizabeth or anything. She's wearing a regular person's dress, like someone you'd see on the street, someone that you'd like meet after church for like brunch or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She looks like a regular person. And I know I know they're both trained athletes, but the optics are different. When I see someone like Bea, when she got cuttered by Will and she's like dressed up in her gear, I'm like, that's a wrestler. And then I see like, All Japan women's legend Mima Shimoda. I'm like, she's a civilian. He should not be hitting her.
She's a regular.
And then she took a vertical suplex, which is also pretty impressive as well.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of cool spots, funny spots.
Also,
there.
When did Akamura decide that he wanted to lean into the Mortal Kombat Scorpion Sub-Zero aesthetic? I don't remember him ever dressing like that.
I guess for COVID, he's like, I'm gonna wear this mask. He's like, oh, I kind of like this. I'm gonna keep it.
That can't be true because I tried training in a mask and it's unbearable. It's the worst. But yeah, Dolce Gardenia picked up the win there. A couple other notable things. During that 8-man tag with LIJ, I liked when the match itself was fine. I don't know. Dave gave it 2 stars. I don't know why.
Well, that's way too low. It was a fun 8-man tag.
There was nothing on this show that was under 3 stars, in my opinion.
Same here.
That's where I'm at with it. But I did like that Tanahashi, Oiwa, Kojima, and which shout out to Kojima back in, we haven't seen him since Wrestle Kingdom. They all dressed up with the same Rei Kometa face paint. So even though it's just kind of a nothing match, it's sort of memorable on this tour because all 4 of those guys had that, matching face paint, which I dig that.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, even Oiwa, the young lion, coming out with the face paint as well. So that was kind of cool gelling that team together there as they battled LIJ.
Opener, Yuto Nakashima got a submission victory over Kosei Fujita, which I thought was interesting considering the fact that he hasn't had TMDK to watch us back on this tour.
Yeah, it kind of seems like his confidence a little bit shaken without Zach and Nichols and Hayes to kind of back him up. And also, Zach's been teaching him all the, British submission holds and stuff like that. And so, yeah, didn't have that Zach influence here. So, yeah, Yuto was able to get the win here.
But to me on this show, the stuff that was a bit higher in the like 3.5, 3 and, somewhere between like 3.5 and 3 3/4 range, you had Soberano Jr. and Hechicero, as well as the other top 2 matches. I liked this Soberano and Hechicero match because I felt like they were the top 2 guys performing on this tour that weren't, the big stars in Mystico and Atlantis Jr. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a matchup of like your classic high flying star versus your Yave grounded like submission expert. And I was surprised. They had a good match, but I was surprised to see Soberano Jr. tap out Hechicero on that night.
Yeah, especially because, Hechicero, he's kind of been built as this, Yave expert. He was doing all those, wacky Yave submission holds in that one 6-man tag that was really great on the tour. And so that was kind of built in here. And so you're thinking, yeah, maybe Soberano's just going to hit, one of his flips, that springboard moonsault or one of his tornillos to get the win. But yeah, he out Yave, the Yave master here, and got the submission win.
I think he just caught him unexpectedly, but yes. Yeah, and I think Soberano Jr., in my opinion, has the best tornado dive of anybody, including Vikingo.
Yeah, dude, Soberano Jr. is so good. He's so smooth, and the way he runs the ropes is just so unique, and yeah, his dives just are so crisp, and he nails them every time.
Now, here's the only thing with that. We, in the past, have said things like this about him, and then when he got in the ring with other wrestlers aside from working the lucha style, that's where some of the trouble came along. He's definitely improved, but I think it will be interesting if he does return for, like, say, a Super Juniors to see where he's at that point. The semi-main event was also really great. We talked about the 6-man tag, and this was another one of those Revelos Increíbles matches. You had Despy, Templario, and Volador Jr. Taking on Barbaro Cavernario, Wato, and Ultimo Guerrero. And this was just like a really, really fun, high-energy spot fest. I didn't think it was quite as good as the 6-man tag, the one that from 2 nights prior, the one where Doki picked up the big victory, but this was not far off from that. And I thought it was really cool to kind of see Volador and Desperado team together. Cavernario, who is still super over with the Japanese crowd. I was reading a review and they were saying that his star's fallen just a little bit in recent times when it comes to his work in CMLL. Like, he's still healthy and he can still go, but he in the booking, he's kind of diminished a bit and he's not really being positioned as like a top guy. And I think we saw a little bit of that reflected here on this Fantastica Mania tour, but he's still so over with the Cork and Hall crowd that he still kind of had to give him a bone. Same thing with Ultimo Guerrero, just one of the most over guys on the tour. So
yeah, Ultimo Guerrero is probably like one of the most over guys in like Cork and Hall history. I mean, we had some really packed Cork and Halls for this tour, and he's out there, raising the roof. They're raising the roof, yeah, going wild.
You would think every night he takes that like leather dress off and then whacks somebody with it. You would think that they would wise up to his gimmick, but I guess they don't. Yeah. And then Wato looked very comfortable here with these guys as well. So that was really, 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 really fun. And then the main event, Mystico and Atlantis Jr., I thought that they had a very competent big match, abbreviated version of like a Arena Mexico big match single fall. But the last time they were here, these two guys faced off at Cork and Hall on the tour, and I liked that match better than this one. I thought this one hit some good notes, but I didn't think it got quite to that like great status that we sort of expect from Mystico on the final night in Cork and Hall,
Yeah, to me, it seems like there was some slight miscommunication between the two of them and some of the spots they were doing. And then, too, this was almost like the Mystico show. I mean, Atlantis Jr. got some of his stuff in, but I feel like there was a long stretch where like Mystico was in control and he was just hitting dive after dive after dive and hitting all these big moves on Atlantis Jr.
Yeah, that stuff was awesome. It just didn't evolve into the struggle that I like to see in a big match like this, and we didn't get the legendary, near fall spots that we're used to seeing with like, say, Volador or Mystico in this kind of spot, generally speaking. So again, I thought the match was good. For me, match of the night, I don't know, maybe that. What did you think was match of the night? Did you like the 6-man more? Or did you like Soberano and Hechicero?
Probably Soberano and Hechicero.
I think that's where I'm leaning to. And I think that's kind of what the cage match ratings sort of reflect as well. So, and then last thing I kind of noticed at the end of the night, they had all the guys, come into the ring. They took their picture, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. They did a bunch of send-offs. And every time they did a send-off, you'd think the show's going off the air. But then like, Mystico just keeps coming back out. And
this man Mystico did not want to leave. It was like, dude, they played his music, and they played the Fantastica Mania music, and they were playing like the New Japan World music, and this man was still out there, still shaking hands, saying hi to fans, kissing babies, like just refusing to leave, just taking in all the cheers and adulation he could.
Yeah, he was glad handing the people. He really wanted to soak in that moment, and he definitely did. So, I don't have any final thoughts. It's sort of I thought it was a good fitting end for a pretty successful reintroduction of Fantastica Mania for both CMLL and New Japan.
Yeah, I think it was a great way to cap the tour off. And, definitely if you want to cherry pick, I think you definitely check out the singles matches on this card. Check out the 6-man tag. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff here. And we saw a lot of these guys too come back for the All-Star Junior Festival, which will be the next thing that we talk about here. So
let me do the rundown on this one. So on this night, the match order was determined by entrance music. And for the pre-show, we had a 6-man tag team match. Kazuma Sumi, Soma Watanabe, and Yo defeated Akira Jumanji, Fuminori Abe, and Ryo Hoshino. The opener for the evening, we saw Makusa Fujita Hayato Jr. and Hiromu Takahashi defeat Hayata, Kazuki Hashimoto, and Yamato. Next matchup, we had Asami Kodaka and Mao. They defeated Onryo and Sho. After that, we had Jun Kasai, Minoru Tanaka, Taka Michinoku, Tatsuhito Takaiwa, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. They defeated Chicharito Shoki, Kota Sekifuda, Leona Musashi, and Shoki Kitamura. After that, Hikaru Sato, Rizuki Taguchi, and Yumehito Imanari. They defeated Baton Blabla, The Great Sasuke, and Tiger's Mask. Following that, we had El Desperado and Volador Jr. in a triangle tag team match. They defeated the teams of El Lindemann and Yuki Ueno, and Doki and Hanaoka. Next up, we had the all-mask match, and the team of Alejandro, Billy Ken Kid, Gurkin Mask, and Mystico defeated the team of Atlantis Jr., Black Mensaray, Bushi, and Dragon Kid. Following that, we had special singles match where Shima defeated Kazuki Hirata. The semi-main event, we had 5-way match as Taiji Ishimori defeated Ninja Mac, Shun Skywalker, Soberano Jr., and Yohei. And then in your main event, as we joked last week wouldn't be the main event, but it absolutely turned out to completely be the main event. Master Wato defeated Atsuki Aoyagi 14 minutes and 24 seconds. And that is a lot of matches, a lot of names, and it is a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, big All-Star Junior Festival. I think what probably happened with the match card was, Japanese got the message that it was supposed to be, here's a card, but we're going to announce it, match order by music. But it got into the English team. They probably went match by match order, and that's probably what happened there. So, yeah, like you mentioned, Wato and Aoyagi ended up being the main event. But, overall, I thought this was a really fun show. We had several promotions that were included here that all sent juniors. We had Active Advanced Pro Wrestling, All Japan, Big Japan, CMLL, DDT, Tradition, Dragon Gate, Gambari Pro, GLATE, Kyushi Pro, Michinoku Pro, obviously New Japan, Osaka Pro, Pancrase Mission, Pro Wrestling Basara, Pro Wrestling Freedoms, Pro Wrestling Noah, Secret Base 01, Pro Wrestling Just Tap Out, Ryoku Dragon Pro, Wrestling of Darkness 666. So, a lot of the promotions in Japan all sent their junior heavyweights for this Hiromu Takahashi produced All-Star Junior Festival, several multi-man matchups. And, for a one-night, special pay-per-view, I thought it was very enjoyable. There's a lot of great high flying. I thought it had a perfect mix of, your flying, had some comedy, you had Jun Kasai in there. There was all kinds of stuff in there. Shima, randomly appearing later on in the show for a match. So there's a lot of good stuff on this card.
Yeah, I felt like as far as the idea of what this was supposed to be, it a lot of people wanted it to be similar in style to, like, say, a New Japan, or I'm sorry, a Super J Cup or something along those lines. And this wasn't quite that. This wasn't a tournament to determine the best. But what it was, a celebration and a coming together of junior heavyweight wrestling across the border, like across all company lines within Japan, and a celebration of what they represent. And I think that they succeeded in portraying that to a T. There are some things I think they could have done differently because they did sell out fairly quickly. I think they might have underestimated the potential demand domestically for a show like this. And, it might have even been better, hypothetically, to have done a slightly larger venue,
Yeah.
just financially and commercially. But I don't know what kind of budget they had in general to begin with to even put on the show. You know what I mean?
Right. Also, they used New Japan Production and New Japan World, but I don't know how much exactly what New Japan was actually pouring into this thing.
I believe LEC paid for the majority of the cost of the show, as opposed to like Bushiroad directly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think that helped a bit to include like say Yamato and different people like that, because it was a true produce show. It wasn't necessarily like funded by Bushiroad, or at least that's my understanding of it. I could be wrong here.
Gotcha.
Now, we're going to give you guys some of our thoughts and takes. Keep in mind, even though, we're keeping a strong style, we cover New Japan, we definitely try to the best of our ability to keep our finger on the pulse of the greater Puroresu scene. It's nearly impossible with this many individuals from this many different companies for us to have intimate knowledge of all these different performers. Plus, because there were definitely people that caught my eye and I thought were impressive, but it's hard for me to even keep straight who I liked, who I didn't like.
Yeah, especially when you have a lot of masked guys out there that we're not familiar with.
Yeah, that was definitely, and because a lot of them like looked similar to a certain extent. So I'm like, which one's which? But I mean, we can kind of give our quick thoughts on the show in general. I mean, what I liked about the show is each match sort of had a different function and feel. I think that those who probably are more familiar with the talent involved probably were able to look up and down the card and get an idea of what the show would feel and look like. The same way like us, like if we're going to like say a WrestleCon Super Show, we can look at the card and kind of get a vibe and a gist of what it is. But for me, as someone who was a little less knowledgeable about all the performers, I didn't know what to expect going into it. But once the show kicked off, I mean, I figured even if I wasn't able to tell who everybody was all the time, I got the general gist of what they were going for with each match. There seemed to be a different theme, a different feeling, and a different purpose to each match on the card, which was nice.
Yeah, I think WrestleCon Super Show is a great kind of comparison because for those shows you have like your lucha match, or you'll have like your hardcore match, or your spot fest, your indie spot fest, your WWE former stars kind of thing. Like it's kind of structured for something for everybody. And I think that's kind of what it was here for this All-Star Junior Festival. Like you had like the crazy like 5-way kind of quick style matchup. Then you had the lucha, the masked man, lucha rules match, and then you had the comedy DDT style match with Shima and Harata towards the end there, and then kind of the bigger junior style main event with Wato and Aoyagi.
Yeah, and aside from that too, the 10-man tag involving all the older juniors and some of the younger, lesser known juniors, that was sort of like a Shinjiro Otani kind of memorial, or like it was dedicated to him, maybe even to inspire him in his recovery. So that was kind of cool. The pre-show match was exactly what you would think it was. It's a pre-show offer to kind of highlight guys that were sort of left off the card. That main opener involving most of what I would say were quite a few of the bigger names, especially in some of the bigger companies. You had Hiromu and Amakusa and Fujita Hayata, Yamato. So that was like an all-star dream 6-man tag, which I'm a little surprised was the true opener of the show. Even though it worked as an opener, it could have easily been the show closer, and I kind of expected it to be. They didn't quite go that way.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be that way too, but I guess Hiromu wanted to be, unselfish booker here, open the show and just kind of stay on commentary for the rest of the show.
Even like the Osamu Kodaka Mao versus Onryo and Sho, which I think a lot of people kind of derided, that was even still like leaning into the garbage and kind of like your lowbrow heel cheating shtick sort of match. So I mean, you even had a little bit of that flavor here. And then the Hikaru Sato and Taguchi 6-man tag match. That was straight up like absurdist comedy with.
Dude, I had to skip through that one.
Yeah, that one. I mean, it was only 7 minutes.
That was too much for me.
But I mean, even that, you had that there. And then Desperado and Volador Jr. versus Lindemann and Yuki Ueno and Doki and Hanaoka. That was very lucha. Well, they even announced that it was like a lucha style
rules,
6-man tag. So they kept it fluid and worked it very much lucha style. So the whole night, even though it was junior wrestling, not only did you see power juniors and bruiser juniors and high flyers and technical guys and deathmatch guys and the grungiest of the grungiest and the most talented and polished that there are. You got the full spectrum of junior talent in Japan in general, but you also got a different style of working for each match on the night, which was kind of refreshing. Couple things I noticed: most of the match times were kept fairly short. This almost even felt like a little bit of a continuation in some regards to like Fantastica Mania, even though it's not like a lucha style show. It was still in Cork and Hall. It had short match times. It had a lot of names and faces that you're not so familiar with, and a lot of high flying. Felt very similar in that vein to a certain extent. And then you even still had a lot of the same guys like Mystico and Atlantis Jr. and Volador involved in the show anyways.
Yeah. And I know overall too, like this was a really just great crowd. Like you mentioned, with a packed, sold out Cork and Hall crowd. And, you had fans from every promotion that was there. So all guys were getting pops and cheers, and it was a really kind of educated fan base, and they were really into their promotions guys, and everybody was getting really good big reactions, and they were popping and cheering for a lot of the great stuff. So that environment really helped the show as well.
Yeah, another one of the surprising things is how much Dragon Gate representation was on the show with Shun Skywalker and Yamato, and there was someone else I can't recall because I'm not the biggest.
Dragon Kid.
Oh yeah. Well, is Dragon Kid still with Dragon Gate right now? I don't know.
I thought maybe I'm not the expert, so I have no idea.
Yeah, but they typically are very isolationists and don't work with outside companies in almost any respect. I mean, I think they worked a show with like Noah this year, and I think they're doing something else with I think Glate this year, but by and large, they typically don't work with the bigger companies, and so it was really cool to see their guys represented here. And every single one of them that were on the show really shined. Even Yamato, who like is probably like Mr. Dragon Gate if there ever was one. Like the most decorated guy they probably ever had, and like the one who's most synonymous. But he's been, from what I understand, sort of like on the downturn over the past few years, and sort of like an uninteresting babyface. And I really liked kind of the build where he was sort of like, I mean, it wasn't even a build. It was pretty much shoot. He was really criticizing the show, saying he wanted nothing to do with it, yada, yada, yada. And then, eventually they finagled their way to get him involved on the show and to like have him on the same card against like Hiromu. That's like dream match territory. That was really, really cool. There's just a lot of great stuff here. Fujita, Junior Hayato, like him coming back after his health issues and ailments, and seeing him like on the same stage as some of the very, very best juniors, and showing that he's every bit. I mean, he could like sleepwalk his way into a Super Juniors tomorrow, and he would be, he would fit in like a glove. He's that talented.
Yeah, he's been grinding for a long time, and it was good seeing him get that big win in that opening 6-man match up there. So yeah, that match was a lot of fun. Of course, Amakusa once again, kind of the standout there of his dives that he was doing in that matchup.
That's one thing I did want to say. Even though everyone got a chance to like shine a little bit because the match times were so short, I don't know that there was anyone that really, to me, super stood out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there is that limitation because there's so many guys and there's so little opportunity on a show like this. Everyone just kind of had to like boom, 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 and it's fun watching it, but you don't get the full experience or understanding of who these guys are. You just get a little bit of a taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think probably the best match that really got a chance to show stuff from everybody was that 5-way match with Ishimori defeating Ninja Mac and Shin Skywalker and Soberano Jr. and Yohei. Like each one of those 5 guys definitely got a chance in that match to kind of shine and do what they're known for. Our boy Ninja Mac was out there killing it with his the ninja special, that crazy cartwheel flipping over the top rope, moonsault dive thing that he does. Shin Skywalker, I haven't seen a whole ton of him, but he's really
great.
He was really impressive in this match as well.
Yeah, he was really impressive. All 5 guys were super impressive in that one, and that was a great combination of speed and high flying and high octane, just everything. I almost kind of feel like the 8-man tag team match with the masked wrestlers, because it was so historic, could have possibly also headlined the show and maybe would have been a lot better if they'd been given more time. I'd also make the same argument for the opener with Hiromu and them. I feel like both of those matches, if they'd been given a bit more time, would have been even better. But I mean, the idea that you got Mystico and Dragon Kid in the same ring against each other at the same time, who are 2 of the absolute most influential high flyers of this past century, that's mind-blowing. And I don't think they've ever faced off against one another. And I kind of feel like they should have probably been given a bit more time, but it was really cool to see all those masked wrestlers mix it up with one another.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a Fire Pro match. Like, you just hit random, a bunch of times, and you get all these dudes in the match. And so, yeah, that was really cool to see.
The only criticism I would have is, again, that match felt like the Mystico All-Star show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And very much like the night before. Like, this guy was like, I'm getting all my shit in. But here's the thing. He's on right now. Like, he's on. Like, it's been for a long time. Like, you'd see Mystico and whatever other names he went under, Caristico and Mystiziz and yada yada yada, and he's had a lot of different names, but I'm glad he's just Mystico again, because that's a lot more simple for me. But in the past, there are times where he was like good, but not like crisp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Voldor's been like that too, where you're like, I know he's great. It's Mystico, but he's not what he once was. But like lately, every time I see him, bro, he is plugged in, dialed in. Like, he's on a different level right now.
Yeah, I think he's definitely motivated again. I've been hearing that things in CMLL have been picking up. Crowd's been getting better. The booking's been picking up coming out of COVID. And so, yeah, he definitely seems motivated. Like you mentioned, out here he did so many dives last night at Fantastica Mania and this match as well. So, yeah, he looked really good here.
The 3-way tag team match I thought was really good. And what was interesting there was like Doki and Hanoaka teamed together for years in Mexico as part of like that
Opponents del Mal.
Yeah. And so they worked that match in a way to where like the other 2 teams, which were, just kind of thrown together, sort of worked like thrown together tag teams. But like Doki and Hanoaka teamed like a team that had experience. They had their double team stuff down, and like they were a bit more fluid, but ultimately they weren't able to overcome the dream team of Volador and Desperado, 2 guys that had been teaming the night prior at Fantastica Mania in one of those, Revelos and Crieblas matches. So
yeah, it's been pretty interesting to see Desperado work with a lot of baby faces lately. I know he's kind of been more of a face-leaning tweener, but I've seen him since the break from Suzuki-gun and the formation of Strong Style. It definitely seems like he's obviously more on the babyface side. And so, yeah, working a lot, Volador on the Fantastica Mania tour, then teaming with Volador here was kind of an interesting dynamic to see here.
A couple of things that I do want to criticize. That tag team match with Mao, Asami Kodaka against Onryo and Sho, that kind of sucked. Like,
yeah,
it had its moments.
Yeah.
But once... Oh, go ahead.
Also, yeah, and in the DQ.
Yeah, it ended in DQ, and it kind of devolved into like... I don't know all the characters that well, but Onryo is like a undead. He wears a bunch of like powder or ectoplasm. Like I'm not so much with the spooky shit. I think it was fine that they had one big gimmick on the show with him, so that's fine. But for instance, like Mao seemed to be someone that I thought was very impressive, and it kind of sucked that he was like sort of saddled in this particular match. Show seemed super disinterested, and then it with him ended up working against his own partner, and those three guys going against him, and then he got himself DQ'd. And I'm like, I don't know, the spirit. I get it. You want to have a little bit of everything on the show, but the spirit of the show is supposed to be the best of the best, and this could have been the pre-show match, and they should have had Yo and all those other young guys in this spot. That would have been better.
Yeah, because that pre-show match was really good. You had a lot of the young lions from different promotions there teaming up, and Yo was in there, and it was those guys were fired up. They were like hitting each other hard, hitting a lot of big moves in that opening match, and so yeah, that would have been much better on the main card, and yeah, throw Show and that DQ finish on the pre-show.
That comedy 6-man tag in the middle of the show was just the drizzling shits. Like, yeah, I don't even know what to think about that. And like, I understand Great Sasuke does comedy these days, and he's got the monk gimmick, and obviously we know what Taguchi's about. But I don't know if this is something like this. Just for some context, if you haven't seen it, Hikaru Sato, Rizuki Taguchi, and Yumehito Imanari, they came out dressed in some sort of like sexy, like revealing sweater attire, and like just like thong underwear underneath it. And
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that was about. Like, just for some context here, and I know Hikaru Sato does do some comedy stuff. I'm not like the biggest or most knowledgeable person when it comes to him, but like, just so it makes sense, he's from Pancrase Mission. He is the head person of Pancrase Mission with Minoru Suzuki. They're like partners, and they've been working together in various companies for years and years and years. And he's like a shooter. He's like a badass shooter type dude. Like, he normally wears like grapplers, like tights and like kick pads, kind of like a Mike Bailey type character. So this was really sort of jarring to me. What is going on?
Yeah, jarring is a perfect word for this whole match.
Right. And I know you mentioned that the Shima match was like DDT comedy. This was like the worst of DDT comedy, or probably some other companies that we don't even follow or know about. But I don't know why that was even on the show. To be honest, it kind of sucked. Well,
I guess there's a fan base for that style of matchup and those guys, and it seemed like people enjoyed it, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, you can miss me with that. It was cool, Shima being on the card. I don't think that was announced or expected.
Yeah, it wasn't, because first of all, the Harada, his music hit. Nobody expected him. He came out, he was doing his dancing gimmick, and
the deal is his dancing gimmick. Like, he made his career doing a parody in the early days of Magnum Tokyo, and Magnum Tokyo was on commentary watching him dance, which was like already kind of mind-blowing to people, because that's like his inspiration and the guy he directly parodied. And then in comes Shima, who wasn't supposed to be on the show as well. And Shima and Magnum Tokyo were like early rivals from like the T2P and the what's the earlier company before Dragon Gate? What's wrong with me?
Well, I'm blanking on it too.
What's wrong with Toryumon?
Yeah, that's right, Toryumon. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, like, that's what the whole like bizarre aspect of it. It's like Shima, who feuded with Magnum Tokyo, is coming in to fight the guy that copied Magnum Tokyo in front of him as he's like on commentary. So there was like a whole backstory there. I'm not the biggest like Toryumon T2P Dragon Gate guy myself. I mean, not that I don't like it. There's so much lore. I don't know it all.
Yeah. But yeah, that got a big pop, and yeah, people weren't expecting either of those guys, and Shima came out, and that was kind of a fun match, and there was a part in the match where Shima ended up got the glasses, and both of them did the dance together.
They did the Magnum Tokyo dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then, just to cap it off, Wato, who I don't know if, we necessarily expect him to be in the main event, but, to see him go up against Aoyagi, I believe he's from, All Japan, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of wanted Aoyagi to pick up the big win here, but I feel like this was a good thing to sort of, kind of give Wato a little bit of a push and an attaboy. He ate a big loss to Ishimori recently that I was a little surprised about. So to see him be the guy standing tall at the end of the night on this show was pretty cool.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's a cool kind of thing. He's a young guy. They're trying to get him over, so they kind of give him this big kind of spotlight moment on this junior festival where there are several guys who probably could have and should have made it over him, but they gave him the spot here. And,
a lot. I mean, Jun Kasai, Mystico, Dragon Kid, Yamato, Hiromu Takahashi, Desperado. The list goes on and on. There's a lot of big names on the show.
Yeah. But overall, I thought it was a good match. I thought Wato looked really good here. They got got a lot of heat on him. He was mocking Wato throughout the match as a way of the Grandmaster pose and kind of cutting him off and kind of getting some jeers from the crowd, trying to get the crowd behind him. And I think Wato, I think especially coming off of Fantastica Mania, a lot of confidence, a lot of just really on his game here, looking really, really crisp, and he was able to hit the Recidamente 2 to get the win here.
Yeah, I thought this match was very solid. No down points. They hit a lot of great high spots. Aoyagi, super crisp, very, very fast. And Wato's looking more and more confident and comfortable in there each and every day. And I thought he did a good job. I don't know if this was like the blowaway singles match at the top of the card that you would have probably hoped it could have been. But nothing on the show really was blowaway. So, that's the only real detracting thing I could say about it. But it was a good main event for the show. And, with them going 14 minutes, they had a great match. So,
yeah. We had a few questions here. Friend of the show, Zach Porter says, what was your favorite match from the All-Star Junior Festival?
I think for me, it's probably the opener of the evening, not the pre-show match, but the one with the big stars. Amakusa, Fujita, Hayato, and Hiromu taking on Hayata, Kazuki, Hashimoto, and Yamato. And I really liked when we got to see Fujita and I believe it was Kazuki Hashimoto, like the two big brawling guys, just like go at it, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Or yeah. And then like to see Yamato mix it up with like Hiromu. There's just a lot of cool stuff in there.
Yeah, for me, my favorite match was the 5-way with Ishimori, Ninja Mac, Shin Skywalker, Sobrano Jr., and Yohei. That was a lot of fun.
I think that's most people's match of the night.
Yeah.
Aside from that, there was an announcement on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Rocky Romero showed up, and he congratulated everybody on the evening and, wished he could be there. But he did announce that the All-Star Junior Festival is coming to North America.
Yeah, well, he asked Hiromu to bring it to
America. Bring it there, yeah. So who knows what that means? Like, is that going to be like domestic guys coming over, mixing up with the best North American juniors? Is it going to be the same, or is it going to be like, the best juniors in North America, and they have like AEW, Impact, New Japan Strong, MLW, NWA, yada,
Tampa
PWG,
Bay Pro,
Tampa Bay Pro. List goes on and on.
Well,
what was it? What was the promotion you wrestled for?
Oh, GUW,
GUW, all the heavy hitters.
Rocky didn't.
Sai Dojo.
Rocky didn't mention on Observer Radio or Live that during G1 time, more juniors will be coming into the States for the New Japan of America pay-per-views. So maybe during G1 time, that's when we'll get this All-Star Junior Festival, get some, domestic New Japan guys, and then New Japan foreigners, and then, like you mentioned, AEW Impact. I'm sure you can get CMLL guys over here as well.
Ring of Honor.
Yeah, ROH, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of options there. Even they could even probably get some of those, like some of the UK guys over, too.
Yeah.
Who knows? Call Vince. See what's up with him.
Is there anybody that you would legitimately want from WWE in a junior festival?
Yeah, of course there is. I don't watch WWE, but they've got.
Well, I guess you get Mysterio.
In a perfect world, do they have people over there that I would like to see in a junior festival? Sure, Ricochet.
Dude, I forgot he was still there.
Johnny Gargano, Pete Dunne. Who's the other? Tyler Bate?
Dude, I forget
Rey Mysterio Jr.?
The embarrassment of riches they have on their roster. I hear about like none of those guys. Like Ray's like the only guy that I hear about.
But if we're in a this nebulous hypothetical world where like juniors from WWE were allowed for whatever reason to come over, they got a lot of really great guys. I was just joking, but I hadn't given much thought to it. But
yeah, Prince Devitt.
Yeah, Devitt. I don't know. I'm trying to look at their the main roster. Akira Tozawa.
Yeah.
The list. Cedric Alexander's there. Chad Gable's there. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of names.
Yeah, dude. They just so much talent gone to waste over there.
Yeah.
But anyway, Zach also asked, is Kevin Kelly always this insufferable on commentary?
I'm a little surprised for a couple reasons. Number one, Zach is typically a more positive individual than this, so I'm surprised to hear this negativity coming from my dog. But number two, I have to imagine that Zach, Zach, I know that he doesn't watch New Japan regularly currently. He's more of like a Noah fan right now, and probably some Joshi shit.
Stardom
and everything like that. But I assume when he was watching New Japan, he watched Kevin Kelly, unless he was just always watching it with Japanese subtitles. I guess I need to ask him that. I don't know. But I think Kevin's the best commentator in the world. Even if I have a rare criticism here and there, I think he's generally great. But on this night, this was not his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I was talking to Zach a little bit about this yesterday when we were watching Revolution. And I think, part of it too was just obviously, like you mentioned, Kevin, this is not his wheelhouse. So he didn't really come with a ton of notes or was super prepared. He kind of let Chris Charlton kind of do more of the fact and knowledge of the backstory of these guys. And he was more of kind of the color, kind of just chiming in on what he was seeing in the ring.
Well, I think he tried. They gathered resources and notes from people that are knowledgeable on these various companies. But bro, it's like 20 plus companies, however many people. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard for him to like come in there and to fully know everybody and get everybody's background story correct.
Oh, here's another weird thing too. During that 10-man tag honoring Otani, Leona, who is the biological son of Tatsumi Fujinami, he looks like a pudgy Otani. It was weird as fuck. Like, why did, if his dad's Fujinami, why does he look so much like Shinjiro Otani? It's super weird.
Maybe there's some funny business going on there.
Maybe it's just me. I don't know if anyone else ever noticed this. I've never watched Leona wrestle before, but I was like, why does he look like Otani? It's fucking weird.
Then Hawaiian Punch BV says, Hiromu put Wato in the main event. Does this mean he sees Wato as the one who takes the title off him? How strong is the Recientemente legend has it that Atsuki is still fucked up in Korakuen Hall?
I think that they probably have hopes and aspirations that Wato will be a top junior. But then again, I think they had those same feelings for Sho and Yo, and I don't know what they're waiting for. I think that's a problem with New Japan is they take too long to pull the trigger on guys, and sometimes it's too late.
Yeah. So maybe I don't know if it was just fully Hiromu. I don't know if maybe New Japan management was like, do us a favor and highlight Wato, but I think it was good that he did get a little bit of highlight here.
Which move of his is the Recientemente?
So that is the that small package, or not that backslide driver move he does.
Backslide driver. Are you talking about the crucifix bomb pin that he does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, backslide driver. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I think that move's pretty great.
Yeah, he got super air on this one.
Yeah. So, I think it's a good move. I think it's getting over in kayfabe, so yeah, it's good.
And he also asked, are there any ASJF participants that you'd like to see more of? Would you like to see Hanaoka in a Fantastica Mania tour? I thought the dude was funny AF. Vegeta Jr. Hayato versus Hiromu sounds like it's happening. Would you like to see Vegeta in Best Super Juniors if his doctor allows it?
To me, and I don't mean to be critical, I thought Hanaoka kind of came off as like a shindy, grungy type of guy that maybe I don't necessarily need to see on a Fantastica Mania tour. Like, he represents the other lucha. not the one happening in Arena Mexico every Friday night, like that
lucha that Doki was doing.
Yeah. And I don't believe in backsliding. It's only onwards and upwards for Doki. We don't need the individuals from his past coming back, influencing him poorly, trying to get him to do tours in Mexico, wrestle on the dirt floors. Like, he doesn't need that, okay? He needs the types of friends that lead him to the top, like Taka Michinoku, Taichi, and who else?
Kanemaru.
and Kanemaru, okay? Domestics only. No, but yeah, I did think there were definitely people that, there were definitely people that I thought were really great. Yuki Ueno was awesome. El Lindemann is always amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Great to see all the high flyers: Alejandro, Gherkin Mask, Lid King Kid, Shun Skywalker. There's just a lot. But the thing is, for me, with this show, I just don't have the time to go chasing down secret base shows,
Right, yeah.
I don't have time to go through the back channels to find Michinoku Pro tapes. It's just not going to be feasible for me to watch 666.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pull up, Pancrase Mission when there's in the middle of the New Japan Cup.
Pancrase Mission's not a promotion. They're just like they don't run shows. They're just a group of guys that they're like, we're Pancrase Mission. Like Suzuki's Pancrase Mission. You don't run a promotion. Yeah, their shit's stupid.
But yeah, there's several talented guys here that if they had a chance to bring in the Super Juniors, definitely some of the guys from that 5-way. I would love to get Ninja Mac as Super Juniors. Shun Skywalker would be great and Super Junior. We talked about Soberano Jr. already. I think he's made a lot of improvements. I think he could be better this go around as well. So yeah,
I think a lot of those young guys in that pre-show showed a lot of promise and raw talent and upside.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to try and follow some of those guys' development and see where they go from there. Because yeah, also a lot of young lions, young guys, and so. They had a lot of fire and think they could be potentially stars in the future. So that's going to wrap up our talk on the All-Star Junior Festival. Let's move on now to the New Japan Cup 2023. So we had night one of the tour and the tournament kicking off on March 5th in Korakuen Hall. Once again, another packed Korakuen Hall crowd here for this opening night of the tournament. We had TMDK, Kosei Vegeta, and Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Oiwa and Tama Tonga. We had Wato, Deguchi, Narita, and Umino defeating the House of Torture. The Bullet Club team of Chase Owens, Gato, and Kenta defeated Strong Style of Desperado Suzuki, and they were teamed up with Yuto Nakashima. Bushi Hiromu and Shingo defeated Leo Rush, Toru Yano, and Yo. Then we had Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi defeating Tanahashi, Okada, and Hanma. And then we had our two New Japan Cup first round matchups that close off the show in the semi-main event spot. We had Tetsuya Naito defeating El Phantasmo, 17 minutes 32 seconds. And then the main event, we had Sonata defeating Taichi, 24 minutes and 27 seconds.
Full disclosure, I did not watch all of this show. I have seen the tournament matches, which I think is where most of our attention needed to kind of be. But was there anything on the undercard that, you thought was like, obviously I don't think there was any like top tier matches or anything, but was there any, story developments or anything that we need to take note of before we talk about these New Japan Cup matches?
Nothing too big. I mean, it's kind of the stuff that they've been doing. Obviously, Zack and Vegeta, Zack, showing Vegeta different holes there in that matchup, getting the win there. They're previewing some of the New Japan Cup matches coming up. They've been kind of building some stuff with Narita and Evil for their first round match coming up. You got Chase back on the tour. Gato is still at this point still rocking the Jay White Switchblade shirt and had the Switchblade necklace thing.
They say, "I miss you, King."
Yeah. Then also they're previewing Leo Rush and Hiromu. Leo Rush is on this whole tour, so he'll be in multi-man matches facing off Hiromu until we get to the final night of the tour where he challenges for the junior title. So that interaction was good there as well. And then they previewed the tag title match in that 6-man where the that great never 6-man team of Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi, they rode strong again here, and they defeated the Mega Aces and Honma, which would be signs to come for the Mega Aces.
Nice.
Yeah, so the first New Japan Cup match, let's talk about this with Tetsuya Naito defeating El Phantasmo. Last week, me, you, Chris, I think we had some long expectations here for ELP. We thought we saw in the tea leaves that he'd be getting, the big rocket strapped to his back, getting the big pusheroonie here. But
I never said that. I don't know what you're laughing. I literally don't know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure I picked Naito to win this tournament.
You did?
No, I'm just
almost sad. Really?
No, I'm just playing. Last week we did a good job previewing the cup and everything, but like we mentioned, this was one of the hardest tournaments that they've done in years to really get a true read on where it's going. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's proving to kind of play out that way. So I think that we tried our best to book out what we expected might happen, but we also had that caveat that we didn't feel super strong or confident or comfortable really about any of the picks that we had placed last week. You know what I mean? And we had questions about this match when it comes to Phantasmo and Naito where we were like, it would in other years make sense for someone like ELP to kind of go through. There were some tea leaf signs there. The fact that Bull Club is kind of leaderless right now, and he seems to be a guy that could, be lined up for that position, and the route he would have had to go through in the tournament, it kind of seemed to lend itself to that sort of narrative. But then last week I asked the very important question. I said, but Naito just beat Kijimuto in the Tokyo Dome, and is he going to turn around and job to ELP? And that's where we were all like, that's a tough call. Yeah. But at the same time, Naito's dropped the first round match in the New Japan Cup many a time, and it makes sense from a booking perspective when you do that, because it's like, if he's building up momentum and then loses deeper into the tournament, it's a bigger loss. Whereas on the first night against a name opponent, he can eat that loss, kind of just be out of the narrative altogether. And it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. By the time the tournament's over, you forget that he even had that loss to begin with. So I did think it was plausible, but now that the match has happened, it's starting to feel as though with this combined with the big win that he just had recently against Kijimuto, as well as the big win that he had on Wrestle Kingdom Night 2, that they might really be gearing Naito up for a mega run here in New Japan. And I know that there are those fans who last year were saying the same thing, but with no actual reason to be saying it other than the fact that him and Okada promised some, they made some promise a long time ago that they're going to fight in the Tokyo Dome again. And there are people that were cleaving to that for dear life. I know that existed, but this actually does, just looking at the track record, big win. I'm not saying he's going to win the cup, but it does kind of feel like they're gearing him up for something.
Yeah. And you got to think, what's Sakura Genesis coming up on April 8th in Sumo Hall, it's a big show. They're going to want to sell that building out and draw a lot of tickets. And also, you do want to elevate new people, but you also have to sell tickets and draw. And you can draw big still with Okada, Naito, the two top guys in the promotion. You can sell out and do a big house with those guys in the main event.
Yeah, possibly. If they decide to go that way, they might not. But I mean, even still, let's say they don't, but you end up with a big name like Naito going into the finals. They've got that big show in Nagita for the finals anyways. So it does make sense from just a business perspective to keep Naito on the tour in a big spot regardless, because that was one of the questions we had looking at the brackets last week. We were like, yeah, there are people you could have win, but who do we actually see as being capable of drawing a big house against Okada,
Right.
And there were only a couple names that realistically fit that bill, and Naito's definitely one of them. So as far as the match goes, I thought that this was really good. I thought that this was a great opportunity for ELP to sort of show his main event chops, and I think he did that here. To a certain degree, this felt more like an actual coming out party than some of the matches he had in, say, like the G1 this past year.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was as into the whole mocking of each other's gimmicks and signals
and poses. Yeah.
Poses. I mean, that stuff's good. I like showmanship, but that was a major story in the match. ELP did so much of it that I don't know. It was a bit much for me.
Well, I felt Naito did it more, which at that time I was like, oh, well, ELP is going to win because Naito is not taking him seriously. Because all throughout the match, Naito was doing the headbanger, arm, thing all throughout, and ELP would get mad and like throughout the match and attack him and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, well, that's going to be Naito's downfall. He's going to do it one too many times, and he's probably going to eat like the sudden death or the CR2, and that's how ELP is going to win. But that's not what happened.
Yeah, but as far as like in-ring performance, ELP did a lot of the great high-flying stuff that we're known to see him from. Top rope moonsault to the floor, big super kicks, frog splash, enziguri, tornado DDT, Frankensteiner. So, I mean, the lung blower, he hit a lot of really cool, flashy moves that I thought sort of I don't want to say brought Naito up because, I mean, it's Naito, but we've noticed recently that when he's wrestling someone that's a little bit more fit, a little bit more active, he steps his game up to kind of, be on their level. And I felt like Naito was doing a bit of that here. I don't want to oversell this and say like this was the greatest match ever or anything. It's probably still like, I don't know, 4 stars, but that's a really good start for when we were talking last week. I was looking at the first round and I was like, out of all these matches, what do you actually want to see? And there's very few that I thought were going to produce fireworks. And I thought this match was very good. Ultimately, unfortunately, ELP was unable to get the big win, and Naito, Destino, and then later on the roll up, and he picks up the 1, 2, 3 here. So he kind of goes on. It's a little bit status quo, but this company's not one to make, usually, unless the name is evil, they're not really willing to go with the monster, push in this tournament for whatever reason. I don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the one good thing here for ELP was, he didn't eat a Destino. He did get rolled up after Naito dodged a super kick. So, it was a roll-up victory. It wasn't a definitive win here. And also...
Yeah, you wouldn't call it decisive.
Right. And the Cork and Hall crowd was super hot. They were really behind ELP. Got a lot of big ELP chants throughout the match. Yeah, dueling chants throughout the match. So he's definitely getting over. The New Japan fans really like him. And so this could be, potential signs into a big push. And we even had a question here from Oscar Rooney. And he says, ELP babyface run in the foreseeable future?
with some of the recent developments as it pertains to the Bullet Club, absolutely. I think that's on the table. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't want to get our hopes up too much, but I think that is definitely a way they could go.
Yeah, I think we saw with ELP before he joined Bullet Club and was in Rev Pro. He was a babyface over there, and we thought initially when we heard the rumors that he was going to be coming over as a babyface, and so it was kind of surprising as to how flashy he wrestles. So I mean, you look at his style and you turn him babyface. I think that could be something cool to do.
Yeah, total agreement there. Nothing really to add, but it seems like they might be going that way.
Yeah. So then the main event, Sonata defeating Taichi, had a story here. Obviously Sonata's been on a losing streak, has had, really low momentum coming into this tournament. And, we've been kind of everybody's been trying to figure out, what's going on with this guy? What's the story? What's his motivations? And we kind of saw that story play out here in the match. Taichi was very dominant in the early part of the match and was just really beating down Sonata and, yelling at him kind of, come on, where's your fighting spirit? Are you going to fight back? Which that led to, Sonata really flipping a switch here and showing a different side of himself.
Yeah, I've never really been a big fan of the Sonata Taichi matches. I think over the years, they've gotten better as time has gone on. They've gotten more and more comfortable. But as you mentioned, this match was a bit of a departure from the standard formula that we're used to seeing from these two guys, the roles that they usually fit into. And, that fits into the bigger, greater narrative that we're seeing play out as it pertains to Sonata and his status in the company as it pertains to is he, because up to now for a while, he was sort of just like a mid-carder to upper mid-card guy. He was kind of brushing for a few years there against greatness when he was feuding with Okada and kind of challenging in this tournament to win the tournament and, challenging for the title. And then his G1 run where he was chasing Okada, and he even got to a G1 final. So at one point, it really did feel like he was on the verge of potentially breaking through that glass ceiling and being a bit higher, maybe not like a top guy, but like maybe along the same lines as like a Zack Sabre Jr. or something of that nature. But yeah, he's really diminished especially over this pandemic era as time has gone on, and not just from a in-ring perspective, but character-wise, like he's really diminished. I mean, it's been a long time since we see him in a top spot. He did have that one title shot. Who was that against? Ibushi a couple years ago?
Yeah.
I think so. And that was sort of underwhelming. And now he's been on a losing streak over the past few months, and it's really been called into question. What is his purpose in LIJ? Does he still deserve to be part of this group? Like, what needs to change with him as a character? Does he even have a spot here in New Japan moving forward? And this is the genesis of whatever the shift is going to be.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting how it all played out. You had Taichi was like no selling a lot of his fancy moves, like that big his big drop kick. Like Taichi brushed it off, the plancha to the outside. Taichi just kind of shook it off and was laying in the Kawada kicks, the big strikes, dropping him with like the dangerous suplex and just really kind of taking it to him until Sonata finally fired up. He was hitting a lot of big European uppercuts, a lot of giving Taichi back some of the boots to the face, big rolling elbows, and then finally able to hit big TKO. He did one of the best skull ends I think I've seen, where he really had that neck crank really tight in, and it looked like Taichi was going to pass out from that. So yeah, a lot of really good back and forth. Sonata even hitting Taichi's Black Mephisto for a near fall. And then he busted out this new, I don't know what he calls it, but it was almost like a Blade Runner into a DDT. So yeah, really good match here.
Very, very good. One thing from a story narrative that I thought was kind of interesting in the early going, like you mentioned, Taichi was sort of the one that was kind of in control early on, and it seemed like Sonata was holding back. And as they were brawling on the outside, and like Taichi was really leaning into his vicious side and exposing the floor and going for DDTs and stuff, it kind of like ignited a fire in Sonata, and where Sonata was like, all right, fuck this. I'm just gonna like be savage here. And he did that pile driver on the outside, and that kind of seemed to be the impetus for this shift that we saw during the match, where he was more, physical and kind of vicious throughout the match. And I thought that this was really great. I liked it even more than the ELP Naito match. I'd probably go like 4.25 on it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I'm not in that 4.25. I was even potentially thinking 4.5. I thought it was really hard hitting. It told a really great story there. And Sonata, this is the kind of stuff that we've been saying about him. We want to see this fire and that the more hard hitting and more kind of a gritty style, and they kind of turn what we've been saying into a story here. And I thought it played out really well.
Well, this new quasi possible finisher that he has, that's almost like a Jay White style Blade Runner, that could be a indicator of things to come for him in this tournament. And I like the beginning here because we've got Naito and Sonata, two guys, stable mates, poised to go, to potentially face off against one another in this tournament now. And both of them are credible challengers if heated up correctly. And I think they're doing the right things just based on this match alone. They're doing the right things with Sonata so far to maybe get him ready for a title shot if that's what they're looking to do in this tournament. And, there's backstory and history with those two guys, and it's an interfactional sort of thing. But one thing I noticed is at the end of the match, we saw where Sonata and Taichi shook hands and gave each other respect, and they have feuded over the years in various different tag scenarios. Originally it was like LIJ against Suzuki-gun, and we saw like Evil and Sonata teaming up against Taichi and various other people, and then later on like against him and Zack Sabre Jr. Dangerous Techers. We saw like Naito and Taichi, or I'm sorry, Naito and Sonata team up against them. And so we've seen them in various different tag feuds, as well as like branched off like singles feuds. And these guys have always seemed to have like this kind of respect and like camaraderie with one another. I am wondering if this is potentially leading to him being the front man of just four guys.
Yeah, we have a question here from Oscar or OK890 saying, where do you think the Sonata storyline is heading? Could he be just the fifth guy?
Well, did you notice he didn't speak on the mic after? He declined to speak on the mic and walked to the back instead.
Yeah, and that could play. You were saying earlier when just four guys kind of formed when they formed that it doesn't seem like that's going to be the final stage of this group. That it's probably going to change. And so maybe that is leading to kind of what you were saying earlier. Maybe Sonata does kind of become the front man for this group, and they become just five guys, I guess, or change it to whatever they're going to call it. But that could be a vehicle for Sonata to do something different here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's definitely a possibility. While there are probably those listening who really would love for Taichi to be that guy, and I hear you. I think we've even gone as far recently when he was feuding with Ospreay to say like there really isn't a reason that you could potentially put him in a role like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or even elevate him. Actually, I think the stronger thing is definitely he's in a position where he could be elevated, be called upon to be not a top like main eventer in the company, but like someone that's probably in that like IC sort of, even though there is no IC title, I see him as being capable now of ascending to an IC secondary role with Taichi. But I don't know if I see him as being like a front man for a faction. And while I don't know if I would necessarily say that Sonata should be that guy, it's going to take something. We've talked about it for years. He can't just always be second fiddle in LIJ. The same, and this was the conundrum with Evil as well when he split off. If they see anything in him, he's not a young guy necessarily. He does have good looks and he has the athleticism. And when he's motivated, he can really be a top-notch wrestler. I don't know if he has the personality to be the front man for a group, but
I think the thing that will help him though is Taka. I mean, Taka is doing a majority of the talking for this group. So if you have Sonata wrestling the way he wrestled in this match, and then you let Taka do all the talking, that could be a pretty interesting combo right there.
Well, I don't want to impose like my perceptions of him onto him because some of this could be cultural as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't read like Sonata's blogs. I have access to like the diaries, but I don't read that shit. To me, I don't even know if it's real. It seems like type
it's
shit.
Work.
Yeah. But whenever he is interviewed outside, he seems like really personable. He's got like this stylistic flair,
Mm-hmm.
and then he comes out in the same gear and he does the same stuff and he seems so like blah. And I'm wondering if we could get a little bit of that flair that we see in his everyday, normal, outside of wrestling type of persona, then I might feel a little differently here. But if they do think that there's upside in potentially pushing him, he might be the guy you want to put in charge of just 5 guys or whatever you want to call that group.
Yeah. And okay, 890 also asked, if Sonata wins New Japan Cup, does he need to beat Okada?
That's a tough question because to me, I don't see him beating Okada, but he's challenged Okada after the New Japan Cup and failed before. Last year, Zack Sabre did the same thing and failed again. So it might get to the point where we're falling into those ghetto traps where he's booking similar things that he's booked in the past with the same outcomes, and that's not necessarily fun or exciting or elevating, but there is a way you could hypothetically book it to where he still loses and gets over and has another chase in him and everything like that. But I mean, it's starting to feel that way for everybody that faces Okada, that like they all kind of need to beat him, but they all don't beat him.
Right. And the thing is, he's kind of on a whole other level right now with the whole kind of like jumbo, personality that we're talking about, this kind of final boss thing, and with his, his whole like Inoki finishing combo with the Integuri and the Cobra Flosion and the landslide. Like he just has this ultimate kill combo right now where it just feels like he's untouchable.
I guess the fear would be you put Sonata in charge of a group, right? He wins the cup, challenges for the title, and then he fails. And then from there, you've already started the group with a guy who is admittedly capable of leading a group, but doesn't really have the track record behind him and he's coming off of a huge failure. You'd have to have some creative booking following that to keep the group viable, So it's kind of a delicate balancing act, but I'll tell you what, me personally, if he wins the tournament, I don't see him beating Okada, even if he needs to. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and it seems like that Okada. I mean, I could see Okada going to the Dome with the title. I think that Ospreay is probably the guy to get the belt off of him, but who knows how they're going to get there, what they're going to do, because Ospreay still has the Kenny story to finish up as well.
Maybe. Those guys might need to go to New York to finish that story.
Okay. 890 also asked, do you think New Japan has plans for Taichi, or is he just going to stay in this kind of Ishii-like role despite being a faction leader?
Well, let's make it very clear. Even though I know he's the most senior guy in the group, he's not the faction leader. They've made that pretty clear.
Yeah, they've been kind of saying that there is no leader kind of thing. They're just 4 guys.
Which, if he was the leader, they would probably, establish that. So, and I already kind of gave my thoughts on Taichi. So, sort of answer this, but yeah.
Rainbow and Slam Pig asks, is it likely that the end of Sonata losing streak storyline will lead to a LIJ faction shakeup or realignment for him, or would that be too much going simultaneously with the Bullet Club stuff? Significantly, his tournament path possibly goes through Naito and Evil.
That's a great observation. I hadn't thought of that. I guess, again, this is a hard tournament to kind of book out. But yeah, if it does wind up being a path that leads him to defeat Naito and then possibly even face and defeat Evil, that's a great story arc to get him to the finals. And yes, I do think that this is going to lead to a shakeup within LIJ of some sort. I don't know if that means he leaves for sure, but it feels like that's where it's headed, and it's felt that way the entire time.
Yeah, I definitely think the Naito match is going to be the big one to watch to see how he wrestles that match and kind of what the interactions are after that match. I think will tell us a lot on what's going to happen with him going forward.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm even excited for that match from like an in-ring perspective, although I'm sure it will be good. I mean, both of those guys have tendencies that when they lean into their worst tendencies, I'm always like, ugh. But because of the stakes that are at play and the storyline stuff, I am invested. And I guess that's part of their job as bookers and wrestlers to get us invested in the storyline. So, on paper, if this was just a G1 match, I might be like, it's it's interesting because they're in the same faction. But now it's like, what's going on? What's going to happen? Is there going to be an angle? Is there going to be a split? Are these guys going to like fuck each other up? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, definitely bigger stakes here. Yeah,
right.
And Dr. Larry the Dark says the finals is in Sonata's hometown, and Sonata just debuted a new finisher. Do they go all the way with Cold Skull or Finlay? He basically ganked the Blade Runner, but with a DDT, and the Blade Runner is an established one-shot finish.
Yeah, I guess you could claim. I don't know if this is us as fans feeding a narrative that's not there, but if that is part of the unspoken narrative that he has taken the Blade Runner and then built upon it, that could lend more credibility to an already very credible finish. I thought the move looked really cool. And I think that that's something we've been talking about for a while. It's like the TKO, it's okay, but like he doesn't really have a true impact finish. And we've been saying for a while, like he's got Skull End, he's got the Muda Moonsault, he's got the O'Connor roll and all that, but like he needed something like this, and now he has it. So that's a really great sign for him in this tournament, one way or the other. Even if he loses, it's gonna probably likely be in a situation where it feeds into whatever ongoing story he has going. But right now, it is feeling like either him or Finlay are the tournament favorites.
Yeah, I mean, they could be on the finals. They're on opposite side of the brackets.
Yep.
And I think the finals being in Sonata's hometown, it's also a good look there as well. You want to get your hometown hero in the main event in the finals, whether he wins or lose. That's a good way to draw for that house.
Well, the thing with that too, just fantasy booking, if you wind up in a situation where it's him and Finlay's this new Bullet Club I guess I'm letting the cat out of the bag, this new Bullet Club / Rebel Club leader, and they steal his dream from him in his hometown, then that affords Finlay to go on and fail against Okada, but have basically fucked over Sonata. And if Sonata does, I'm just fantasy booking here, but let's say he does take over a faction. Now that faction has a mission, and they have an opponent, and they've got a goal in mind, and they've got vengeance. So I think that sounds like something that could happen.
Yeah. Well, now let's move on to the 51st anniversary show that happened today, March 6th in Ota City Gym. We had the Bullet Club team of ELP and Kenta defeating Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. After this match, ELP was talking to Kenta, something's going on in the back, and kind of alluding to some stuff we would see later on in the show. Following that, we had United Empire Aussie Open and Will Ospreay. They defeated Kojima, Tamatonga, and Toru Yano. We had a question here from Lazy Binger. What do you think of Ospreay winning New Japan Cup to challenge Omega at Dominion/Forbidden Door 2?
That's an interesting way to go. Here's the only thing with that. They have Sakura Genesis, what, is it a week later or is it a few days later?
Yeah, it's April 8th. I forget what the finals, I think, are like the 20th something, I think the finals are, of March.
Yeah, so, that is interesting. So you've got, that's really, really, really interesting because, you've got the New Japan Cup finals on March 21st, and then April 8th is Sakura Genesis, and before that you have 5 nights. I don't know how many of these are going to be televised. It looks like at least 2 of them for sure, but possibly more. You have 5 Road to Sakura Genesis shows in between. They don't normally do that.
Yeah, they usually just jump straight to Sakura Genesis.
It's usually the next night or very shortly thereafter. Doesn't that seem interesting that they have Road to shows leading to Sakura Genesis and that gap? They don't normally have that gap, man.
Yeah, man, they're building to something, but I do think they announced though that the plan was for the New Japan Cup winner to challenge the champion at Sakura Genesis.
Well, historically, I mean, you're probably right, but historically speaking, the winner of the New Japan Cup could challenge for any title that they wanted.
Right.
And we have seen in the past where I believe Shinsuke Nakamura won the tournament and challenged for the IC title, not the world title.
Right, yeah.
So there is precedent there. I think it's possible that could happen. I hadn't thought of that, and I think it's an interesting idea. Again, we do so much of this on this show, and other shows do it too, and us as fans, we try to be the smartest guy in the room and come up with all these like wacky theories. And even like on this show, we're doing a lot more fantasy booking than we're normally comfortable doing.
Yeah.
But that stuff's fun. And I mean, what if they go that way? Like, what if that is how we get the next Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay match? Because hypothetically, if that's the way you're going, they've got plenty of they have the finals to potentially set up a different challenger for Okada, and then they have Road to shows to build that feud, and they don't normally have that buffer. And that kind of the other thing too, though, hypothetically, maybe they are going to have someone like Finlay win, and they feel like before they try and do a big house like that, they need some Road to shows to heat up the feud. Maybe that's the other thought.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of interesting options there with that Road to show scheduled.
I hadn't even looked at that. I didn't know that they were going that way. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So the third match of the night, Strong Style, Despy, Suzuki, and Narita. They defeated the House of Torture, Dick Togo, Evil, and Show. Post-match, you had Evil laying out Narita because they're coming up. They have their first round match coming up. And we had a question from OK890. Do you think House of Torture should get a second heavyweight or even just book Show as a open weight? To me, it doesn't look like Yujiro belongs in major tournaments.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about that here in a moment, but I don't know. Like, the thing is, like, okay, House of Torture gets the second heavyweight. Do we want to invest in the House of Torture at this point? Like, is this a group that we want to like, do we want to put someone that's more talented than Yujiro into this group so we can saddle them with the albatross that is the House of Torture branding?
No.
Right. So it's like, and maybe there are those people. And if that is the case, if you think this is a viable brand and unit and group that you could get invested in, then for you, yes, you might want to put someone else in there. Like, I'm not convinced that even if Yujiro wasn't in the group, he wouldn't still be in the tournaments. They just seem to like him for whatever reason.
Hey, so you need a pin eater in these tournaments. He's a great guy you can beat.
Yeah, but there's also a baseline level of performance that you want to get out of these guys. So yeah.
Fourth match of the night, we had Aaron Henare, Great O'Khan, and Jeff Cobb defeating Sonata, Shingo, and Tetsuya Naito. Then we had
LIJ in the dirt.
Yeah, not working well together here. Leo Rush and Yo defeating Bushi and Hiromu, so continuing to build up that junior title match.
Did you see that Hiromu is now referring to Leo Rush as a kitty cat?
No, I missed that.
Yeah, the old Will Ospreay routine.
So that brings us to the two New Japan Cup matches on this night. So first, in the semi-main event spot, we had the Roughneck Shota Umino. He defeated Yujiro Takahashi 9 minutes and 47 seconds.
Oh boy, this was not what's the word? Good. This was not good.
Yeah.
And I think that there's blame to be doled out across the board. I don't want to be too harsh necessarily on Shota Umino, but he didn't really necessarily light the world on fire here. I think Yujiro already has had a reputation as not necessarily being a big match performer type singles guy, and every now and again someone can drag something decent out of him, but by and large his matches aren't great. And lately he seems to be slowed down even to the pace that he used to keep even just a couple of years ago. And I would even dare to say a bit uninterested. His heat segments were uninspired and kind of lazy. And yeah. And then you got Shota Umino, who's like this young, exuberant, hotshot who doesn't have the experience to carry a guy like Yujiro to a better quality match than what we got here. You couple that with House of Torture shenanigans and interference, and this is the base recipe for a terrible match. I think I'm like 2 stars on this, maybe less, and it's like a 9-minute plus match. It's just not good. Plus, we saw a little bit more of slippin' Umino. Like we saw him kind of stumble and lose his footing and kind of get discombobulated in that recent main event match he had against Naito. We saw a little bit more of that make an appearance during this match as well, which was kind of surprising.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Sho came out for the interference, which allowed Yujiro to get a low blow. He was going to hit Umino with the pimp cane, but then he was able to dodge that, hit the Death Rider on Sho, Death Rider on Yujiro, and get the win here. So Umino will advance to face Zack Sabre Jr. in the second round of the tournament. But like you mentioned, obviously not the best showing for Yujiro, but also Umino didn't look as strong as he has in other performances.
Right. The only thing I will say that's a positive is, if you believe that Umino has upside and you want to see him kind of like go through in this tournament, this is just kind of the tax that you sort of have to pay. Give him that pin eater, like you mentioned, Jeremy, and Yujiro. Get that out of the way, because even though, granted, this wasn't good, and I do think some of it was Umino's fault for sure with his inexperience, it's not like if you would put him in there with, like, say, I don't know, Tomohiro Ishii or Will Ospreay, that they were going to get a classic out of Yujiro. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially with this amount of time, with like a 10-minute match time. Like, it'd be better, but I mean, it's still not going to be lighting the world on fire. So it's just one of those things. It's like you kind of just have to beat him, jump in the muck with him, and move on. And now he's got Zach on deck, and that's going to be a very telling thing. Like, because if he goes out there and has a bad match with Naito, and then has a bad match with Zack Sabre Jr., now we've got a problem.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that is a better showing for Shota Umino. And that takes us to the main event, or actually the semi-main event for the evening. We had the other New Japan Cup first round matchup. We had the Rebel, David Finlay, defeating Tomohiro Ishii, 18 minutes and 40 seconds. Big thing here. Like we kind of alluded to earlier, David Finlay now a part of the Bullet Club. For his entrance, they showed the clips from Battle in the Valley where he laid out Jay White and cut that scathing promo, which that led into new Bullet Club music for him. We saw a Rebel Club logo, and out he comes, new look, darker hair, darker beard, new gear, and he's being accompanied by Gato. So Gato has found his new man that he's gonna be managing, and David Finlay, and that led into this semi-main event matchup.
Gato's not loyal.
These bookers ain't loyal.
I don't know. One has to kind of question. I mean, maybe everything turns around and Gato ends up looking like the smartest man in the room, but this is the dude that started with Okada.
Yeah.
And then he jumped to Jay. And now he's with David. And I those are really great wrestlers, but they're not Okada. Maybe he should have never just left Okada. That might have not been a good career move.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where you see where Okada's at now, it's like, why?
Yeah. But this match was really, really great. We're used to seeing Ishii brawling and just having great brawling matches, but David Finlay stood toe to toe with him in that regard and really showcased a different side of himself than we're even with his recent string of great matches in the G1 and his title challenge against Will Ospreay at the tail end of last year. I mean, he had a new look, he had new gear, a new attitude, but his style of wrestling was different as well. We saw both of these guys use moves that we're not used to seeing them move. We also saw David Finlay powering through a lot of attacks from Tomohiro Ishii that in the past would have pretty much like taken him out and kind of just powering through them. So this was a whole different David Finlay altogether and this is kind of what we were expecting out of or complaining that we weren't seeing in the G1 last year, where everyone was loving his performance, but it still felt a little mundane, a little bit more like par for the course. This is a whole different range for the guy. He's in a different role altogether, which is nice to see.
Yeah, like you're saying, this is what we wanted to see this whole time. Like he had the fire here. He's really aggressive, more hard hitting, and yeah, from the bell, he jumped Ishii right at the bell. Ishii was taking his shirt off, and then from there it was just a very hard hitting matchup. A lot of great strike exchanges. Where in the past, if Finlay would be striking with somebody like an Ishii, he wouldn't last, but he was going toe to toe with Ishii on all those big strike exchanges. There was a great spear towards the end where he just crushed, cut Ishii in half with that. A lot of big, back and forth, like a big German suplex from Ishii to him, and they were just trading a lot of really big bombs and getting up, doing a lot of fighting spirit spots, big lariats from each other as well, and then eventually Finlay hits a stunner, a clothesline, a headbutt, and then the trash panda to get the win. But man, it was a lot of really great back and forth stuff here.
Yeah, at one point we saw Ishii use a Shining Wizard, which I think we've seen him use that in the past, but very sparingly, and so that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Finlay hit a Dominator, which we've never seen him use that move before, which was also pretty awesome. The match was great. Again, I'm 4.25 on this. This exceeded my expectations. And, it would be easy to just, if we were being lazy, we could just chalk it up to it's Tomohiro Ishii. He carried a lesser opponent to a great match, and that's pretty standard for him. So congratulations, Tomohiro Ishii. But David Finlay really has stepped up his game over the past year and has really come into his own as a performer and competitor. And he didn't look like a guy that was getting carried in this match. I mean, there might be some element to that, but he looked like he belonged with Ishii toe to toe. And dare I say, he looked like a bigger star than Ishii. He looked like the guy that should be going over.
Yeah. Also, there was that great superplex spot Ishii gave to him, and Finlay, popped right back up. And so yeah, Finlay looked like a real star in this matchup. And yeah, I don't think that this was a carry job. Like, he definitely gave his share of the match here and looked great.
I liked his trash talking during the match as well.
Yeah.
So not just like a new attitude and a new look and everything, but like he kind of came off as like a badass. Like,
yeah.
I mean, just to kind of put in context, and I hate to do this because I know that they're so intrinsically linked, but like we saw like Rock Hard Juice Robinson like show up, and like we were very excited for the prospect of it, but it kind of felt like Juice Rob. Like when I say Juice Robinson, I don't just mean the man, I mean the character. It felt like Juice Robinson cosplaying as a Bullet Club guy, but really just being Juice Robinson. Like it's still just wacky Juice.
Yeah.
But now he's got like a black, like a jean vest on, and that's all that's really changed. This did not feel like David Finlay that we saw last year. I mean, it's the same guy, and I felt like what we got out of him in the G1 and in his US title, that was like the metamorphosis to what this is. But he really is like owning this character, and he's like, this is him now, this rebel character or whatever.
Yeah. And we had tons of questions about this match and the happenings here. So first from friend of the show, Rich Latta, he says, David Finlay, it or not it?
Tough question. We got to let it play out. As our friends over at the WWE fans like to say, let it play out. But, okay. If the question is he it in terms of like, do I think that there's star potential there? And I'm not saying this as like an apologist to like, do I genuinely think this guy could be a top star? I genuinely do right now. I'm very optimistic. I feel good about this. I like this more than like when Evil turned. This is better than that. But as the Bullet Club leader, I don't know if I buy him as Bullet Club leader just yet. And in fact, I don't know if being the Bullet Club leader is a benefit to anybody these days. I know it's a platform that you have more recognizability immediately just from being associated with the brand, but there's already been 4 leaders in front of you, and they're 4 of the best wrestlers and best characters that there's ever been. And do you just want to be another guy in that long line of guys that have already been like, do you want to be compared to Kenny Omega for the rest of your career? Like you're Jay White? I don't know if that's a positive thing. I don't know if you look at actually, what's funny? I'm just repeating all the same talking points that Zack Sabre Jr. Did you see that tweet the comment that was out there?
No.
Yeah. Zack Sabre Jr. was like, here, I'll, I know we're doing this on the air, but let me read this, bro. Let me read this to you. Like, it's really funny. Okay. So, shout out to, actually, I don't even know where this came, but Zack Sabre Jr. was quoted as saying, he said, "What a joke. Bullet Club's dead. Get them in the sea where they belong. The 2-Suite's been outdated for about 2 decades, but if you insist on doing it, maybe rethink your members. You got Yujiro Takahashi. Fuck me. What a joke." And like nothing, and it's like, to quote CM Punk, stop him when he's lying, But tell him when he's telling lies or whatever the fuck it was. But he's not lying. And so it's like, okay, even if he does have all this star potential, and even if his matches are really good and he seems to be rejuvenated, reinvigorated, how does it help to be surrounded by the House of Torture and Bad Luck Fale and Liebird Lucci and
Caveman Ugg
and Caveman Ugg and and show. Like, I don't know, bro. I don't know if I'm David Finlay, if I want to be. If it was me, I would reinvent the Bullet Club. I wouldn't even call it. I would hold a funeral for the Bullet Club and change the name. I mean, there's a reason it's not like when Suzuki took over, they didn't call it Kojima-gun any longer. They changed the name of it. Like, I think that it might be the time to lean into something new that's not Bullet Club. That's just me personally. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be a better move to have him kind of, mold it and shape it in his look and totally, get rid of the Bullet Club name and do something different and really do a takeover. Like, I'm taking over the group. It's no longer called this. Get rid of the excess fat, like you mentioned. Get rid of some of those low card guys, and then bring in some new guys to the group, and then keep some of the top end guys like El Phantasmo.
You gonna do the Brett or the Shawn Michaels? One of these guys doesn't look like the rest. Bah, super kick.
Yes.
Which when that happened, I never thought about the fact that Booker T was the only black guy associated with the group at that moment. I did it never this. That was what, 2002.
Yeah.
I was a teenager, so I wasn't thinking on those terms really. But you got the whole entire NWO in there, and I think it's
Shawn,
X-Pac, Big Show,
Nash,
Kevin Nash, and Booker T. And he says one of these dudes is not like the others, and kicks Booker T. And I was like, he's not like them. He's not part of the clique.
Bro, that's what I thought too.
I was like, he doesn't belong. Get that riffraff out of here. I had but now that I'm an adult, I'm like, he kicked the only black dude out of the group and said, "You don't look like the rest of us." What the fuck were we watching?
And that was right after the whole Booker T, Triple H, WrestleMania 19. People like you,
people like you
don't main event. Like, what?
You know what's funny about that? When I watched that, I also didn't think of that in racial terms at all. I was like, yeah, guys from WCW. Guys from WCW don't headline WrestleMania.
These Crockett boys, these Ted Turner boys,
these guys from Georgia, they don't deserve to be headlining, the show of the Immortals. It didn't dawn on me till I was much older, and I was like, and then I read an article and I was like, oh my God, he said what?
Right, dude, it was bad, but they could at least salvage it if Booker T had actually won and beat the guy that was calling him out for not looking like us and being a champion. But they had Triple H beat that man clean. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. So David Finlay, it or not it? What are you thinking? What's the short answer?
I mean, I'm with you. You gotta wait and let it play out. I think in this matchup, I think it was it. I like the music. I like the look. I like the style of wrestling. Everything about the presentation here made me say it was it for this night. But like you said, we got to see how it's going to look moving forward.
This is the first. I will say this is the first time I've ever believed in David Finlay.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, I've enjoyed his matches. So it's not like I didn't think he was an excellent performer, but it just felt like underdog David Finlay turning it up and improving and showcasing what a talent he is, but he's never going to be a top guy. You know what I mean? Never, but here it was oh, I believe in David Finlay now. He's not David Finlay. He's not that David Finlay. This is a whole new fucking dude. And one thing I will say though, is I know that everyone thought that he was going to be part of Bullet Club and lead them and everything like that. And to me, that just didn't fit the MO of Bullet Club from what we saw at Battle in the Valley, because he came out, attacked on his own. He didn't allude to, he alluded to taking Jay White's spot. And I think a lot of people interpreted that as meaning he's going to be part of the Bullet Club or whatever. And he wore all black. So I see the connections, but it just didn't fit the standard, what we're used to seeing from Bullet Club. And maybe that's a good thing, because maybe that is part of a reinvention, but I totally thought this guy was going to be, plus he was calling himself the Rebel. And to me, the Rebel is like when John Moxley was saying, "I'm not with anybody," you know,
Yeah.
and like I'm an outsider. I'm not part of any group. And I thought that's what he was, like the alpha wolf, like he's Carl Fredericks, you know. But then it's like I'm not a rebel. I'm part of the most lucrative group that is, you know, from a financial in the West, you know, standpoint in Bullet Club. So I don't know. I don't know if that all jives with me. Maybe he should just like redo it and call it Rebel Club or some shit, or something with a better name. I don't know.
Yeah. But like you mentioned, the promo here, he's complaining about being an outsider. Then he joins, you know, this big group.
Yeah, I don't fit in anywhere except for the Bullet Club as the leader. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Rambone Slam Pig says, with Finlay coming out with Gato as a part of Bullet Club, I'm under the assumption that he is taking over the leadership role. Do you think this is a sign Bullet Club is refocusing on its original role as a heel gaijin group? Will some of the domestic talent leave it?
I think those are great questions, and they're sort of more like leading questions. And I think that it would be great if some of those things happened. I think shakeups just in general are healthy right now, especially where we're at with the company. And I think some of that would be good if it happened, because right now the Bullet Club doesn't feel like the Bull. I mean, that is one way you could fix the Bullet Club, is making it more like the old Bullet Club. I know that we've been saying not to do that, but like if they were like a some sort of like gaijin heel, you know, group, maybe they could have a second lease on life. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, or maybe, you know, having Finlay bring in people that he's actually like friends
Connected
with.
to?
Yeah.
But I don't know who his boys are.
Me either. I guess his brother Brogan. Dave bring in Finlay.
You know, I was saying that they should do that, but as I was saying it almost feels like NWO 2000-ish. You know, I don't know. The one thing I do know is that, like, one way or the other, they need to change. If they are going to be the Bullet Club, I say no more suckets, no more. I mean, they don't really do that, but like no more like Two Sweets. Like all the old vestiges of what this group was need to disappear. It does need to change.
Yeah.
The only guy that's even in the group still from the OG days is Fale, and he's like starting a whole different Bullet Club in Australia that no one seems to know about.
Right, his whole the Rogue Army's Bullet Club.
Right. So now you got 3 groups in Bullet. You got realistically, you've actually got like 4 groups in Bullet Club. You got Bullet Club proper, then you got House of Torture, then you got Rogue Army, and then you got whatever the fuck the dudes in Impact are that claim they're part of Bullet Club that aren't even ever on the Japanese shows to begin with.
Chris Bay and Ace Austin.
Yeah, the Bullet Club.
Oh man!
Not to mention the original club over in WWE.
A lot going on out here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if they did like get rid of all domestic guys, and it's like Finlay, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, ELP, Juice Robinson, like all the top like gaijins that are currently in the group, I think maybe that could work out a little bit better.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Juice. We don't even know what the fuck's going on with Juice. Is he even part of this group or not? Like, it's hard to tell.
He came out in Battle of the Valley.
Yeah, but he's been working for Tony Khan, not repping anything with Bullet Club. It's weird.
Really weird. Puro Poppy says, do you think New Japan management may have selected Dave Finlay for the Bullet Club leader position because he poses a lower risk to leave the company than others? No disrespect to Finlay, but I can't see him attracting a lot of attention from AEW or WWE right now, which historically has been the case for Bullet Club leaders.
Yeah, but I mean, to your point, WWE didn't want AJ until he was a Bullet Club leader. They didn't want Finn Balor until he was Bullet Club leader. They didn't want Kenny Omega. They had Kenny Omega, and they didn't want Kenny Omega until he was a Bullet Club leader. Probably the same story would apply with Jay White, most likely. I mean, that is the platform that all those guys made their names and made their money and their fortunes off of, and then got outside interest based off of it. So it's hard to claim that David Finlay would fail without first putting him in the position. He has to get an opportunity to be the guy first. And if he flops, he flops. But if history repeats itself, then he'll be a guy that these other companies are looking at because he's associated with the Bullet Club brand.
Right, and then with that position, he'll be in big main events. He'll be facing Okada. He'll be facing Naito and Shingo and Will Ospreay, and that will elevate him to have these great matches and be seen by a bigger audience.
Right.
Okay, 890 asks, do you think they possibly do a double turn with ELP and Finlay?
Seems to be that way. ELP, I didn't get to, I read an excerpt from the backstage comments, and he did not seem to be pleased or even clued in any way to what was going on with this shift and shakeup within Bullet Club. So I think from a character perspective, his motivations, he's probably, I mean, if I was him and I was in his shoes as a character, I'd be livid.
Yeah, and they kind of, teased that after the tag match, like him and Kento were kind of talking, and he didn't seem upset with things that were happening backstage. So it definitely, could be a double turn on the way. Next question from Mr. Dormant 13 says, it's me, Bash. Finlay, like really the new leader of the club. Does that mean Juice is his underling now? All kidding aside, don't you think ELP would have been a better fit for the role, especially after his progression last year?
I mean, again, we're kind of rehashing some of the same talking points, but I don't know if I'm an ELP, I don't know if I really want to lead the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there was that, I saw a funny tweet. I don't think I talked about it on the air, but like, when a few weeks ago, people were like trying to speculate who'd be the new Bullet Club leader, and someone's like, hear me out. MJF, new leader of the Bullet Club. And like MJF retweeted, he was like, I'd rather be a member of the Put a Bullet in My Head Club. Like, and I think there are cons to be, you have these very, very lofty, alumni that preceded you, that you are going to be compared and contrasted to, that you have to, basically match up with or even potentially surpass, which in some cases seems insurmountable. So you've got that. Plus, you've got a diminished brand that's long in the tooth, that's definitely bloated and seems to be very aimless. And I don't know if being associated with that group is a benefit to, like, if I'm ELP, right? I don't know if I have as much upside as people seem to believe ELP has, if I even want to be the Bullet Club leader, because maybe it might be a better path to be the guy on. I mean, look what it's done for Tama Tonga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might be better for him to not be the leader of Bullet Club and to forge his own path that is completely apart from having those expectations placed on him and having to be associated with those guys and yada, yada, yada. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing with ELP, he is like, out of everybody that's currently in Bullet Club, the one guy that feels like he would have fit in.
He fit it the most.
With the old Bullet Club. Like, when I see him, like, when he teamed with the Bucks at Forbidden Door, like, it just seemed like it fit so well. Like, he would have fit in perfectly with that Young Bucks, Kenny, AJ, Devin. He would have fit in any of those kind of eras of Bullet Club. And so I guess if you're trying to harken back to that energy, you can go with ELP, but for his career trajectory, I do think that probably it's better for him to go babyface. I mean, there's not really a lot of top guys on the Hantai side right now. I mean, you got Tama. Tanahashi's kind of on the downswing. Like, you always need more guys for that New Japan army. And so I think, going face, I mean, the crowd loves him. And I think the whole, light up jacket thing works well too as a face. Like, there's so many things that he could do to get over as a face, and I think it would help him a lot.
One other thing too is he asked about the idea of if Finlay's the leader, is Juice's underling, and in a certain sense, yes, he would be. But one thing that was an issue with the Bullet Club over the past couple of years was the lack of cohesion and unity that was very rarely ever on display under Jay White. Like, in the early days of him first taking over, I think it was more prominent, but in the last few years, I mean, especially after like he dropped the title to Okada the first time, they very rarely ever appeared as a group in any kind of capacity. I mean, most of the time that Jay came out, it was just him and Gato, unless he was working like a multi-man match with some of the other stablemates. But like the only two prominent times I can even remember the Bull Club like posing together or showing up on screen was like the one time that Jay White was in the finals of the G1 against Ibushi, and the whole entire group came out. And that was right when Kenta joined the group. And then, most recently, like last year when he beat Okada for the title, the whole group seemed to have come out at the end of that show. But the old Bull Club, like when specifically like when AJ Styles ran it, they were always all together all the time, even if it was like on Being the Elite or post-match promos or and it kind of became a problem because they cheated so much. But at least there was that feeling that this was something. The Bull Club hasn't felt like anything to me in years. They're just a bunch of dudes that all wear black and white and too sweet each other. And then you got House of Torture that just fuck off with their matches, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it for a while now. Yeah, Bull Club needs to end, but they're still raking in T-shirt money. It's still, I guess, a popular brand domestically. But yeah, Finlay's going to leave. I definitely think there are some changes that they can do to help him out. Def Triangle 720 says, "What is your opinion on New Japan just getting rid of Bull Club?" Well, we just talked about that. I mean,
we've already kind of covered it.
Yeah. Senior Sombrero 3K1 says, "Am I the only one that thinks that after his recent makeover, Finlay looks like low budget Jay White?"
He's got a good point there, and that's something they need to be careful about. Yeah. I don't know if I think they should have colored the hair. I like everything else, but I don't know if I like the new darker hair.
I think in a vacuum, I do like the darker hair because also it kind of just makes him look like a darker, more evil version of himself. But then when you kind of back out and you're like, oh well, yeah, he's trying to look like Jay White, then it's like, it doesn't work out so well that way.
Yeah.
Hawaiian Punch BB says, "Gato needs a rebel. Bullet Club needs a rebel. The world needs a rebel. Does Keeping It Strong Style need the rebel?"
We don't need any man. But I like this new persona. He's the rebel. I don't even know what I saw some post-match comments from him. I haven't watched them, but I saw where he I don't know if it was a tweet or if he said it after a match, but somehow like I think it came up that like Fit Finlay is not like in favor of what he's doing and he's not supporting it. And he was talking shit. He was like, "The fuck I need Fit Finlay for? Did he ever win a world title?" He's like, "I don't need him anymore." He's like, I'm the one who's gonna fulfill the unfulfilled family promises. I'm gonna be a world champion. This guy's gonna tell me what to do. He never even won a world championship.
Man, you got a lot of guys wanting to, go after their dads right now. The Guns, Dominic, now David Finlay,
Cody.
We had a question just come in from Downing-24 on Reddit. It says, "Is Young Boy officially a part of the hashtag Rebel Club?"
No. And that's not me saying I don't like him, but I will say this. I did like the Rebel, the new shirt he has. I like the logo because it looks like Misfits kind of. That's kind of cool. I'm wondering if they are going to get sued for that. Like if they're even allowed to use that intellectual property, but it does look pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, everything about his gear, everything looks really cool right now with Dave Finlay. Well, let's move on now to the main event of this show. We have the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles on the line. The champions, Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi, they defeated the Mega Aces of Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada, 20 minutes and 17 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's just take a moment and recognize with a hand clap of applause and a salute in our hearts to the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Yoshi motherfucking Hashi.
Dude, this man, Yoshihashi, he pinned the ace.
Is there any chance that we're not like giving him the credit that he's due? That he might actually be the one that wins this New Japan Cup? Has anyone even thought about that? Because I think I could get behind that.
Yeah, I don't think people have really been thinking about that because of the whole, potential Aussie Open storyline here. But, Yoshihashi said in the post-match, it's been his goal to beat Tanahashi, pin Tanahashi. He did that here in his tag match. And, he said one day he wants to pin Tanahashi in singles. He wants to beat Okada in singles. So who knows? Yeah, maybe it's his, Yoshihashi's year. Not Finlay, not Naito. Yoshihashi.
We've always made jokes recently about how the Mega Aces, and it is so funny that everyone else wants to give a team name to this team, and I hate all the team names they try to give to Tanahashi and Okada. I've seen people want to call them Love and Rain and call them the Dream Team. Like, bro, they're the fucking Mega Aces. We gave them this name years ago. It's not changing. That's who it is. And if anyone wants to refer to them anything other than the Mega Aces, I got 2 words for it. No, I'm just but as I was saying, when they first started teaming together in the early days, they did lose a lot. But in more recent history, they have been winning most of their matches. I think at this point, I did the math, and they've won as many matches as they've lost up to this point. Going into this match, I think they were close to like 500 all time, with maybe like 1 draw or something like that. So it wasn't completely unfathomable that they might have won the titles here. Another thing too, I put out the tweet, Jeremy. I don't know if you caught this, but I did a little bit of research, and there have been 9 instances in the past prior to this match where the main heavyweight title holder in New Japan Pro Wrestling was also the main tag team champion as well, but it hasn't happened in over 25 years. So like, had Mega Aces won, this would have been really historic for Kazuchika Okada and kind of like added to his legacy. And, unfortunately they came up short here, but I thought that was kind of like a cool talking point leading into the match. And, they mentioned it on commentary, but they didn't mention us.
Yeah. Shout out to our boy, Chris Samsa. He dropped your stats on his sheet for Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton and didn't, give credit to you and the show, but, no, this happened to overlook that fact.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. But Inoki's done it in the past. Fujinami, Choshu, Muta, Hashimoto, and then most recently in 1997, Kensuke Sasaki. He did it in 1997, and he was a dual champion for about 49 days. So it's a very, very rare thing, and it looked at one point like it might have potentially been Okada again, but this match was fantastic though. Really, really, really fantastic. I mean, it gave me serious All Japan champion, like tag team champion carnival type vibes here.
Yeah, this match was absolutely incredible. You had this hot Ota crowd. You had 4 of their favorite guys in the ring here, and they worked together so well, and there were just so many great near falls throughout the matchup. You had Tanahashi hitting a straight jacket German and a sling blade on Yoshihashi for a great near fall. He goes up for the high fly flow, then Goto cuts him off, which leads to Tanahashi eventually getting a dragon screw on Goto, dragon screw on Yoshihashi, and then Okada and Tanahashi go for this cool double team where Okada hits the elbow drop from the top, and Tanahashi was going to hit the high fly flow right afterwards, but then Yoshihashi got the knees up and got a small package, which was a great near fall. We've seen so many people pin Tanahashi after knees up into a small package cradle. So that was a great near fall there. And then again, some great strike exchanges. They're going for Shoto over and over again, and Okada keeps making the save. Tanahashi's fighting free at a great near fall roll up there. Yoshihashi's going for Karma. Tanahashi blocks it. And then eventually they hit the Shoto and pin Tanahashi. And this was just incredible matchup. So many great, believable near falls.
Yeah. In the past, in various different companies, you'll see situations where you'll have like a team that is thrown together of major stars, like we saw here with Okada and Tanahashi, a dream team, if you will. And then you'll have an established, long running tag team that is like their tag team specialists. They're the champions. And every now and again, you'll get that mythical matchup where you have that established tag team take on top end single stars who are trying to make a go of it together. And it's always a really interesting and kind of compelling story to tell. And there's lots of instances throughout the history of wrestling where this has taken place. And to me, it works best when you have where you show sort of like the superiority of the tag team that's used to teaming together, that has the reps in, and they know the beats and everything like that. And that's kind of what we saw here with Goto and Yoshihashi as Bishamon. Like, they just gelled together on a higher level. The teamwork was much more fluid than what we're seeing out of Tanahashi and Okada. But that's not to say that we didn't see bombs getting thrown by Okada and Tanahashi. I mean, they got their stuff in as well. And there were some really, really believable, very close near falls down the stretch that were like very compelling. I think right now this is an easy early contender for tag team match of the year. I think it's probably the best tag team match that I've seen probably anywhere, at least specifically for sure in Japan this year. And that's across the board. And there's been a couple really awesome tag team matches already. And I think that this is the one that's leading the pack, not just for New Japan, but just domestically across the board. But this might be the best tag team match I've seen in 2023 so far, period.
Yeah, dude, the crowd was so hot for this match. The near falls were just in. There were so many times where you're like, oh, that's it. Oh, we're going to get new champs. Oh, they're going to retain. And it was literally a roller coaster ride of emotions towards the end there. And these guys, I mean, they have amazing chemistry together in singles and tag situations. And yeah, this was an absolutely incredible main event here. And this whole show was free. So if you're not a New Japan World subscriber, I definitely recommend you go to njpwworld.com and check out this main event match for free. Because this, like Josh said, this is probably going to be one of the leading contenders for our Tag Team Match of the Year award for this show. But then even across the board, like, this is just a great straight-up tag match that competes against anything that's happened this year so far.
Yeah, for some context, right now in Japan, the other really highly acclaimed tag team match that took place this year was like Kento Miyahara and Takuya Nomura versus Naoya Nomura and Yuma Aoyagi. And that got like 4 3/4 from Dave. It's got a 9.37 on Cage Match. This match also has a 9.37. I saw the All Japan tag team match, thought it was blowaway. I like this one even better than that one. I don't know if it's only got 45 votes right now. So I don't know if the trend, if it's too early, that it's going to keep going up for a bit, or if we're at the tipping point where it's going to go down. But I know it's early, but it's right now, it's the number 4 highest ranked match in Cage Match altogether. It's just behind Okada, Shingo, Danielson, and MJF, and Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. So I mean, we are looking at what I think right now could very easily be a match of the year contender for our awards, just on the top 10 ballot, period. And that's pretty hard to do as a tag team match in New Japan.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a straight up tag break into the match of the year category, have we?
I'm pretty sure we have. I'm pretty sure like...
Well, maybe Bucks and like Golden Lovers, maybe.
I think Bucks and Golden Lovers for sure has been on there, but this one feels like it's going to be on there.
Yeah.
It might not. I don't know. It's early, but like, yeah, this was fantastic.
Where do you go? Star rating?
4.5
Mm.
for me, maybe 4.5 plus. I don't know. It's really awesome, but I could see someone going higher than that personally. And again, this just really, I know it's only 20 minutes long, so it's not quite a fair comparison to compare it to like some of those All Japan 90s tag team epics that went 45 minutes plus. But the way it was worked, especially down the tail end stretch, it felt a lot like, Holy Demon Army versus like Super Generation. It felt like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't given my final rating, but yeah, I'm definitely with you. Somewhere 4.5 to be between 4% and 5. Maybe that,
maybe 4.5 plus.
Yeah, the Lanza method. Yeah, the 4.5 plus. But yeah, just absolutely incredible matchup. Definitely have to go out of your way to watch this one. And like I was mentioning earlier, Yoshihashi post match cut the promo, talking about second great title defense for Bishamon and how he was finally able to defeat Tanahashi. He asked who had Yoshihashi closing out the 51st anniversary show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone did, but that's pretty awesome. And I liked some of the comments he made where he finally beat Tanahashi, and not only that, but he mentioned how if he sharpens his skills and improves day in and day out, he thinks like one day and someday soon he's going to be able to beat both Okada and Tanahashi in singles, which I'm like, hell yeah, Yoshihashi. Like, let's fucking do this. Like,
well, I mean, Tanahashi's on the downswing and Yoshihashi's on the upswing. I mean, who knows? Maybe G1 this year, he can get a big singles win.
Yeah.
We had a question here from Pure Poppy. He says, with all the mixed faction undercard tags and Okada teaming with Tanahashi to challenge Bishamon, can you guys think of any particular reason New Japan still keeps Chaos and Hantai as separate entities? The only thing I can think of is maybe they sell a lot of Chaos merch. Curious your insights on why they remain separated.
I mean, there's a lot of, it is semantics, but they aren't the same thing at the same time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're adjacent to one another. I mean, because at the end of the day, Okada being the top guy still, based on the way that this company's been set up for a decade plus, still kind of needs to be the leader of a group, but he doesn't fit into that traditional Hantai role,
Mm-hmm.
So if you did kind of just merge them into one another or do away with Chaos, it kind of throws Okada's role as the leader sort of into flux. I know some people are critical of how the group is ran and everything like that, especially considering this match in particular. So who knows? It could also be, like you mentioned, something from like a financial standpoint with the merchandising and how they're marketed. But, at the same time, too, a lot of these groups, it's not just the fact that they're in a group, but they actually travel together, train together, and everything like that. So that might be part of it as well. Like, they're Chaos because Chaos actually does have these close-knit connections besides just what you see on screen.
Right, we've seen kind of like the off-screen stuff with these guys, Ishii, Yoshihashi go to Okada, the Okada cruise kind of stuff, going fishing together, that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, there's kind of that real life bond between these guys, and so that could be a reason that why the group keeps going, or kind of like you're saying, like Okada's character, especially now, he's kind of more heel leaning a little bit. The kind of big boss we've been talking about that doesn't really fit. The flag waver kind of babe face of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And so, and I know Hantai technically is a group, but it's also kind of not a group. And so, really having Okada lead his own group, I think is a necessity for his character right now. Well, that's it for the action that happened for this.
Before we move on, best anniversary show in years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a couple bangers at the top.
Yeah. So we have some more New Japan Cup shows coming up this week. So night 2 of the New Japan Cup tour will be on March 8th in Fukushima. So on the undercard, we'll get Nakashima and Umino versus Fujita and Sabre. Just 4 Guys versus ELP, Kenta, Chase, and Gato. Shingo and Bushi versus Aaron Henare, Great Okan, Leo Rush, Finlay, and Tama Tonga versus Hiromu Sanada and Naito. Now, this was announced before Finlay's turn. So I'm curious to see if they're going to continue with this match with Finlay teaming with Rush and Tama Tonga, or if they're going to shake the card up with Finlay now being in Bullet Club.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if I were to guess, they probably will shake it up.
Yeah. And then fifth match of the night will be Yoshihashi Goto versus Jeff Cobb, Kyle Fletcher, and Will Ospreay. Then we'll have New Japan Cup first round action, Toru Yano versus Mark Davis, and Evil versus Ren Narita. Who are you going with for those two?
I'm still picking Evil against Ren Narita, especially now that we're seeing this, LIJ alumni Sonata storyline kind of play itself out. It not only does Evil fit more into that narrative now more than ever, but I also still have the same reasonings that I had to begin with, that I don't know if Ren Narita needs to continue on in the tournament at this point, since they already sort of had him go deep in his last tournament. And I also think with Evil, potentially, I don't know if that group like House of Torture are still angling for the never openweight 6-man tag team titles, but a win over Ren Narita might qualify them for that. Or even if they're not, having Evil beat Ren Narita might just be like the little feather in his cap, like the give back to dropping the belts to them. He has the last little final say over this, young rookie returning from excursion. So to me, having Evil win just makes the most sense on a lot of levels, even if I don't like it. And I know this isn't popular, but I think Toru Yano is going to beat Mark Davis, just because the winner of that match has Will Ospreay next, and I don't know if they're willing to do so many interfactional matches, but I would like to see Mark Davis win, because I think him and Will Ospreay sounds a lot more enticing than Yano and Will Ospreay does.
Yeah, Davis and Ospreay would be awesome. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Yano is going to get the roll up win there. The one case for Narita winning is he did beat Sonata in that TV title tournament. So if you wanted Sonata to get the win back on his way to kind of rehabbing and getting,
that's a great point,
to the main event, you could have him beat Narita in that round there to move on to I think maybe the semifinals or finals, whatever that bracketing would be.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. To me, though, if you're trying to establish Sonata as a top guy, I think beating bigger names means more than getting a win back in that tournament. But that's just my logic. It doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do. And you could be 100% right. Like Ren Narita beat him last time, beat him pretty convincingly. So maybe that's how part of his rehabbing.
Yeah, but the whole, like you mentioned, the whole LIJ connection there, like if he beats Naito, then beats Evil, like I think that would be more kind of poetic justice than going through Narita.
Right.
So then moving on, night 3 will be March 10th. We'll have Vegeta and ZSJ versus Sho and Yujiro, Kanemaru and Taichi versus Tiktogo and Evil, Finlay, Narita, Despy, and Suzuki versus Gato, ELP, Chase, and Kenta. Same thing there with Finlay, being teamed up with the Strong Style guys. Then we'll have Hanma, Yano, Ishii, and Goto versus Okan, Cobb, Davis, and Ospreay. Leo Rush, Umino, and Tama versus Bushi, Hiromu, Sonata, and Naito. Then for the New Japan Cup matches, we'll have Yoshihashi versus Kyle Fletcher. And then Shingo Takagi versus Aaron Hanare.
I'm still going with Kyle Fletcher because the winner of this gets Goto, and I don't think they're going to do Yoshihashi versus Goto. And then, or actually, I don't even know. Is that the case? Goto has a bye, right?
Yeah, Goto has a bye, so the winner would face Goto, yeah.
Okay. And then with the Shingo Takagi, Aaron Hanare thing, man, that's really tough for me. I think I'm still going to call the upset.
So Hanare, he did pin Shingo in the undercard of today's show.
Oh.
If that changes anything for you.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. Because that's your classic, I'm heating the guy up to eat a pinfall loss.
And he needed help too. Jeff Cobb hit the Tour of the Islands first on Shingo. Then he hit his move and pinned Shingo.
I'm gonna stick with it. I think that might be a bit of a red herring. It probably. I mean, there are reasons to have Shingo go through. He's one of the only bigger names still in this tournament, especially on that side of the bracket. And it does make financial sense to have him continue on through the tournament, especially given the fact that he's a former champion, everything like that. But since he is the New Japan, the King of Pro Wrestling title holder, I think Aaron Henare fits in that role perfectly. I think Aaron Henare is going to cheat again and pick up an undeserved victory over Shingo and kind of just get him out of the equation. Kind of like what we were predicting with ELP and Naito, but this time it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the two things that are making me want to go with Shingo, one, like I mentioned, Hanare getting the win on today's show on Shingo, and then plus this whole Sonata LIJ thing. What if you do Sonata Shingo in the finals?
At the end?
Yeah.
It could do that, but I have a lot of faith that they're going with Dave Finlay. At the very least to the semifinals.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm changing. I'm going with Shingo here for this one.
It makes sense. I think we both laid out a lot of compelling reasons why you might want to have Shingo go through. So they very rarely have they ever proven to us that they have great faith in Aaron Henare. I mean, the biggest win he's ever gotten is, Tanahashi in the G1, which he's not the only one that's ever beat Tanahashi in an unexpected fashion in the G1 on the opening day. Like, that's happened quite a few times. So he's not alone there in that. But he didn't have a stellar G1 in terms of like kayfabe booking. So it's not like there's a lot of reason to have faith. My only thing is he would be a good KOPW title challenger. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That's my only real reason for holding on to the booking.
Then night 4, March 11th, we'll have Tanahashi and Okada versus Ren Narita and Shota Umino. And then we'll have 2 second-round matches. Naito will take on Chase Owens, who's coming in for bye. And then we'll have Sonata versus Kenta. Kenta coming in for bye. Also to note, Kenta does have the strong openweight championship with him in Japan. And there also seems to be potentially Suzuki wants to challenge for that title, it looks like.
Well, this would be the first time in that title's history that the champion's actually been in Japan, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah, Tanahashi and Okada got to get their win back, so get back to that 500 range. I'm going Naito and Sonata on this, and I think we're going to see them face off, and they're both talking about it, so it's pretty clear that's where we're going.
Yeah. Then night 5, March 12th, we'll have Goto versus the winner of Fletcher Yoshihashi, Tama versus the winner of Shingo and Henare.
Yeah, I think we're going to get Goto versus Fletcher. I don't know that I believe Kyle Fletcher is going to go through both members of Bishamon, but he could. I'm going to stick with Goto getting the victory there.
All right, I'm going to go with Fletcher.
Okay. And then I would prefer to see Tama Tonga versus Shingo, but we could go with him and Henare. I sort of feel like Tama Tonga needs to beat either one of them, regardless, though.
Yeah, and if you have Tama beat Shingo, there's no need. It's a champion versus champion. There's no need to. Tama doesn't need to challenge for KOPW, so Shingo can be off and it's fine. So yeah, I would like to see Tama and Shingo here.
Right. If Shingo beats Tama Tonga, unless he's going deeper in the tournament, he does have a claim to the Never title.
Yeah. And then on night 6, March 13th, more second round action. We'll have Jeff Cobb coming in for bye versus the winner of Evil and Narita. And then Will Ospreay come in for bye with the winner of Yano and Davis.
Yeah, Cobb's that bye that we hadn't really given enough thought to. We're both talking about Evil or Narita potentially facing Sonata when you got a daunting challenge in Jeff Cobb in front of you. And I don't know. To me, all bets are off when it comes to this tournament. We've gotten most of our booking wrong so far already.
Yeah.
So anything's possible. But I think you go Osprey beating. It's tough. I think last week I predicted Yano beating Osprey, which could happen. I don't know. I think you go Osprey and Evil.
Yeah, that probably makes the most sense. Yeah.
Probably, but it's tough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got a lot. I mean, bro, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 shows in 7 days. So it's going to be a busy week. I don't know how much time I'm going to be giving to those undercards. I think I'm just going to focus all my attention on the main matches.
Same here. Yeah, I'll scroll Twitter for any clips of undercard stories.
So moving on to the news. The official word is that Jay White is now officially a free agent as of February 28th. So, no surprise there, but he's no longer with New Japan apparently. Axis aired the Mercedes Moné versus Kyrie match from San Jose on March 2nd, and they will be airing the Eddie Kingston versus Jay White and Okada versus Tanahashi matches on March 9th. On March 16th, they'll start airing the Anniversary Show and New Japan Cup matches. Mercedes Moné was on the red carpet this past week for The Mandalorian, and she was sporting the IWGP Women's title, getting some good press there. Kiji Muto and Seiji Sakaguchi were honored by Japan's national government for lifetime service to the sporting world this past week. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Blake Christian on the first episode of ROH TV's reboot episode. That match is now available for free on YouTube. So if you haven't checked it out, it is available. Bullet Club's Chris Bay and Ace Austin defeated the Motor City Machine Guns this past week to become Impact Tag Team Champions. So some more gold on the Bullet Club's waist. And then there were announcements this past week. Bloodsport 9, Johnny Bloodsport will be taking on Team Filthy's Royce Isaacs. And we got a couple questions and recommend match of the week. We're going to get out of here.
Yeah, so Hawaiian Punch VB says that deathmatch legend Isama Kodaka challenged Show to a death match. Do you think he could beat the House of Torture out of Show?
I don't think Show's going to do that match, and he also declined the challenge the night of. So I'd be very surprised if they actually end up doing that match.
Yeah. And then he says, how impressive was the heavyweight debut of John Jones? Who would you pick in a hypothetical matchup between John Jones and Ngannou?
Interesting question. There's a lot to kind of unpack there when it comes to John Jones at heavyweight. And I don't think I've ever really gotten a chance to kind of give my thoughts on John Jones competing at heavyweight on the air here. So I think that John was very impressive. Did you watch that fight, Jeremy?
No, it was a busy wrestling weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch a fight yet. Okay.
I know we're running up on time, so I'll try to keep it brief. But a couple things with John. John hasn't fought in 3 years. Self-imposed exile, partially due to COVID, but also giving himself the time to put the weight on, right? So he's not quite the same fighter at this point as he was prior. So it's not like everything that preceded this fight is really applicable because he is a whole new fighter. So there's a lot of question marks. I've always felt like John was going to have trouble at heavyweight one way or another for a few different reasons. Number one, as great as John Jones is, and John Jones is undoubtedly one of the greatest fighters of all time, maybe the greatest, he has never had knockout power, one-hit knockout power. He's dangerous in almost every aspect of fighting. He's got one walk-away knockout victory, the head kick against DC in the second fight, but he's never slept anybody with a punch ever. And that's the kind of thing that you sort of generally do need at 265. He might have it at this point. Sometimes when you put on the extra muscle, the extra mass, you gain power from that. Plus, I do assume he's going to have a speed advantage over most heavyweights. The unfortunate thing is we didn't get to see that out of him on Sunday or Saturday night. So it still remains to be seen what kind of power he has in his fists moving forward. Second thing, in the past, John Jones, the one time that he ever put on real muscle was for the fight against Avin St. Preux when he'd been given the 1 year suspension, and then he returned. and he really struggled that night with his performance, having the extra weight on. So I've always felt like I didn't know if he had the right frame for 265, even though he's a big guy. He looked pretty good against Gon, but I did notice that even though his strikes look fluid, he himself looked a little loosey-goosey from a footwork standpoint. And that's not just my perspective. He actually said that in the post-match. He said he didn't feel fully comfortable on his feet at that point. Plus, I don't think it was fully disclosed, but he definitely went into this fight with some sort of injury because he was doing a lot of swimming in those embedded videos leading up to the fight. So I do think there's a reason he decided to take Gon down as opposed to stand with him, which is smart. That being said, it's going to be interesting to see how he carries the weight, because the fight was so short. We don't know what kind of gas tank John has. How long can he compete at that level with that kind of weight on him? We don't really know. We haven't seen it yet. The other thing too, John has always struggled with guys that were his same size or bigger than him. It's rare, but there are a handful of guys that he's fought like that. Mostly the younger generation of guys he's fought. Some of his own contemporaries, but like Gustafsson, Avin St. Preux, Reyes, Santos, Smith, just to like name a few. And one of the biggest things is a lot of John's game is based on ground and pound and getting people off their feet. John's takedown completion I looked this up recently. When he's fighting a man that's smaller than him in stature, his takedown success rate is 65% of the time he's successful. When he's trying to take down a man that's his same size or bigger, it's less than 20%. Or I think it is 20%, maybe like 21, 22, something like that. He has really struggled to take bigger men down. Now, he did get Gon down, but keep in mind, and it was very smart, and you can't fault him for it, he got him down off of a mistimed strike, and he took his back and then used his weight to kind of push him down. It wasn't your traditional, toss or shoot. So it's not like we got to see John's wrestling ability the same way, like we didn't see him do like some Randy Couture type shit is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he wasn't out there shooting, deep double legs or anything like that.
Yeah, he wasn't doing deep double legs or single legs or anything like that. Like he just happened to catch the guy when he was mistimed, caught his back, pushed him down to the ground, and then from there kind of controlled him. And he was brilliant at controlling him on the ground. But that didn't really tell us anything we didn't know. We knew Gon was a one-dimensional fighter, that he wasn't good off of his back. We already saw this with the Francis Ngannou fight, and he's a French, Muay Thai kickboxer. So he's not someone who's going to be comfortable with a big man like John Jones on top of him. And he didn't have submission defense, and he got tapped out very, very quickly. It was impressive. I'm not taking anything away from John Jones. It's just there's a lot of unanswered questions. What is his wrestling going to look like against someone that can sprawl or defend a takedown? What is his chin going to look like when someone actually hits him? Because we didn't even see him get hit in this fight. And at 265, I'm sorry, doesn't matter who you are. That's like the danger zone. Any and everybody can get knocked out at 265, period. We don't know what his gas tank looks like with his cardio. There's just a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, it was very impressive, and all credit to him, and maybe he can continue to do this moving forward. But I don't know what John Jones at heavyweight looks like, because we only saw 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes of it, and it looked scary. I will say this. He moved forward with no fear, and he was walking down a Muay Thai world champion, and he was in the pocket the whole time, and Gon looked scared. And the few shots that he did throw, like the punches, they looked like they had bad intentions on them. They didn't land, so I don't know how powerful they were and what that might look like, but he looked good, That being said, I always pick Ngannou, period. I pick the two guys at heavyweight that I'm not going to pick against when it comes to John Jones. I'm not going to pick against Stipe, and I'm not going to pick against Francis Ngannou unless John Jones gives me reason to doubt that, because Francis is just the scariest fighter I've ever seen in my life, period. And Stipe couldn't get him down and got knocked out. And if he employs the same kind of takedown defense against John Jones and then he hits him, it's night, period.
Yeah, Ngannou's grappling and wrestling has improved a ton from the very first fight, his very first UFC fight several years ago.
Right.
And so, yeah, being able to grapple with John and stop those takedowns and throw one of those big, wild, strong punches of his, like, yeah, he would knock John Jones out.
I give John a lot more of a chance against Stipe. I think the fact that he's open as such a large favorite over Stipe is a little bit ridiculous, and I might even I don't even gamble, but I might put some money on Stipe against John Jones because there's value there. But Stipe is the one guy that, like, he's great in every single aspect of MMA. There's nowhere he's weak. He's great on the ground. He's great in the clinch. He's great standing. He's got awesome strikes. Got a great chin. Great wrestler. I mean, he's completely well-rounded, and that's like I hate to like move the goalposts, but it is the truth. He's been the dominant, defining man in that division for a long time now, and it's like, okay, John Jones did beat Gon. Gon's dangerous, but he took him down and submitted him very quickly. Like, if he does that to to Stipe, that's a whole different. Now we're like, holy shit, what are we looking at right now? But I don't know if he does that to Stipe. I know Stipe's 40, but age doesn't matter as much at heavyweight as it does at the lower weight classes. So I do favor Stipe, and I favor Ngannou over over John Jones. Last thing before we move on. If I'm the UFC and I'm John Jones and I'm going to make a run at heavyweight, I do everything in my power to re-sign Brock Lesnar if, in fact, his contract with WWE is coming up as it's rumored, because they could not make any more money against any other opponent that would be as safe as doing John Jones against Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that would be a huge money drawing fight.
That could hypothetically be the biggest gate and biggest selling pay-per-view ever in the history of the sport.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap things up now with a recommended match of the week. Last week, I had the excursion match. I recommended the Young Bucks versus Aussie Open from Rampage.
Yeah, this match was outstanding. Just another in a long line of Young Bucks offerings on free TV that are like kind of mind-blowing. Aussie Open, again, they were incredible as well here. One has to wonder what's going to happen with Aussie Open long term. If they, like, I don't know why they haven't been signed somewhere just yet, but they looked incredible here, and so did the Young Bucks. And this is definitely a match that I want to see again and again. I thought it was really, really awesome. I don't know if I'm as high as Dave. Dave went like 4.5 on this. And I think that might be stretching it just a bit, but I'm probably like 3 3/4, 4 stars here. I think given the right stage and everything, that these guys have an even better match in them. But at 16 minutes for a first time meeting between them, they let it all hang out. And this was great.
Yeah, that was a really fun matchup. Obviously, I think people were expecting probably more with it being those two teams, but hey, it was a Friday on a tape Rampage. I'm sure time probably got cut out from the TV presentation. You had commercial breaks in there. I think on a Forbidden Door-like stage where there's pay-per-view timing, I think these guys can do a better match.
Right. I still think it was very there was a lot of good finisher fake outs and some pretty cool unique spots, and I thought it was very entertaining. The House of Black interference probably didn't help necessarily, so that was kind of a little, and it was also kind of weirdly, it wasn't even a major part of the match. Like, it was weird. Like, it didn't need to be there, but I think for the story they were telling with House of Black and the Young Bucks, like, it had its place, but they also didn't want to detract from the match, so they did it real quick, but it also didn't fit. It was just kind of like a weird thing there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Then for the recommended match of the week, you recommended the Great Muta versus Tenryu from 96 from War. And man, this was a bloody, wild brawl. Muto, Tenryu, these guys are brawling all around the ringside. Muto had some kind of like, I don't know if it was like a screwdriver or some kind of sharp object that he had, and he was just jabbing Tenryu in the head. And then Tenryu is bleeding, and then they're back to the outside. Muto pile drives Tenryu on the table, and then Muto is just walking the dog with this man and just destroying him on the outside. Tenryu is a bloody mess. They get back to the inside. Tenryu he's hitting these big, dangerous backdrop suplexes. Muto's no-selling it. Tenryu's trying to fight back with a chair, but then he gets misted by Muto, and then gets the table, sets up in the corner. This is the backdrop, the handspring elbow drop to Tenryu through the table. Then Tenryu reverses the Muto moonsault into a powerbomb, but then it gets misted again. They go to the outside, brawl a bit more, back in the ring. Tenryu comes back, hits a powerbomb, and was able to beat the great Muta. So yeah, this was just a wild, crazy brawl, bloody brawl. Kind of surprising that, I guess, just watching the match and not knowing the full context of the rivalry and the story, that Muta lost the match after he was so dominant and seemed like Tenryu had no chance here.
Yeah, I think that this was probably in many ways the best offering of the great Muta character in Japan, because, in America, the great Muta character was essentially just a gimmicked up version of Kiji Muto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he still wrestled the way that Kiji Muto would become to know, like, what am I trying to say? The way that Kiji Muto wrestled in Japan later with all the flash and the high spots and the high speed and everything like that, the athletic style, that's what he was doing prior on his excursion, but as Great Muta, plus he had the gimmick. But once he got to Japan, because he was wrestling that way under his own real name, once he introduced the Great Muta character, he had to actually move away from the athleticism altogether. And most of his matches are spectacles where there's very few high spots. It's very slow paced. It's all blood. It's all gimmicks. It's all smoke and mirrors. And there's not really much of a mixture between those two things. But once he went to war and he wrestled Tenryu, he was able to kind of do a hybrid version of the Great Muta character where, yeah, it is still really violent and it is mostly that, but he's also not phoning it in and just doing, a kabuki, impersonation.
Yeah. This was, kind of, it was getting vibes from all the Moxley Hangman matchup where, Tenryu is this bloody mess and he's getting jabbed in the head with some sharp object. So, yeah, really bloody, wild, crazy brawl here.
Nice. So what do you have for me this week?
So this week I got the recommended match, and I am recommending Tetsuya Naito versus Tomohiro Ishii from Invasion Attack 2014 for the Never Openweight title.
Okay. And for Excursion Match of the Week, I will be recommending Zack Sabre Jr. versus Blake Christian from Ring of Honor Television.
Perfect. Been meaning to check that one out as well. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here. Next week, we'll be back to review more New Japan Cup action. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. You can follow the network at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. On Instagram at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Summerwitz, the AEW Match Guide podcast, hosted by Sir Sam Brown, and the Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny Kukler. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Lowe's always has more ways for you to save. On top of our everyday low prices, pros can save big when buying in bulk. Or if your purchase is over $1,500, ask about our volume savings program. A pro associate can provide a customized quote. Ask about our volume savings programs today. It always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. While supplies last, minimum purchase required. Selection varies by location. Lowe's reserves the right to limit quantities. Volume discount pricing quotes are valid up to 7 days. Visit your local pro desk to learn more and start saving. Offers subject to change may not be available in all Lowe's stores.